All right, Chair Smith, whenever you're ready, we do have 11 commissioners logged in and able to vote.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I have 2:59 at least on my computer, so at 3 o'clock we'll get going. Commissioner Hall, I just want to make sure you've read through this and you realize you are on tap for invocation today. I'm sure you have, but...
Thank you, Chairman, and I'm honored to do that.
Great. Better safe than sorry, let you know. All right, 3 o'clock. We're going to call this full board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the call to order roll.
Commissioner Kleinfeld attending remotely from East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Romano?
Commissioner Romano attending remotely from Sterling Heights, Michigan, Macomb County.
Commissioner Lucido? Commissioner Myjack? Commissioner Carabelli?
Carabelli remotely, Shelby Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Brown?
Don Brown present, Washington Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft?
Commissioner Kraft attending remotely, Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Commissioner Leonetti attending remotely from Mount Clemens, Michigan.
Commissioner Haw?
Commissioner Haw attending remotely from Roseville, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Drolet?
Commissioner Drolet attending remotely from Macomb Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
And that completes the roll, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Item number 3, always one of my favorite parts of the meeting and even more meaningful today, is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, invocation. Commissioner Hahn.
Thank you, Chairman. If you could take a moment to bow our heads. Dear Lord, I pray that you guide us always. Satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions. I pray that we will be fruitful during this meeting and respect each other's opinions. Father, please guide us so that this meeting can be productive. Let us be effective and decisive and always do what is in the best interest of Macomb County. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you. Item number 5, I need a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Romano adopts the agenda.
I have Romano, and somebody else got stepped on, so I'm not exactly sure who supported that. Carabelli, thank you. All right, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item number 6, get approval of the motion to approve the minutes dated October 22nd, 2020.
Myjack makes the motion.
Haw second.
Thank you. By Jack and Hall, please vote. Commissioner Myjack, I can hear you there.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 6B, item approval of minutes dated November 16th, 2020. Can I get a motion, please?
Move Carabelli.
Thank you.
Support Brown.
Thank you. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item number 7, public participation. Any members of the public wishing to speak on any item on the agenda You have 5 minutes. Please unmute yourself and tell me your name and address. Any members of the public wishing to speak on items on today's agenda?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Shaquilla Johnson.
Hello.
Yes, and I was calling about the Shelby Five, the 5 protesters that were arrested while
Right,
practicing.
Shaquilla, can I get a city, please, from you, at least an address in a city?
State.
Yes, go ahead.
Detroit, Michigan.
All right.
8506 Trinity,
Okay.
48228.
Thank you. Now, is this, I would just tell you, and I'm not sure exactly what you're going to talk about, but you, the first public participation is only for items that are actually on the agenda. So if there's not an item relating to what you want to talk about on the agenda, there's a public participation at the end of the meeting for anything.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak on today's? I think, is there a Rebecca maybe that would wish to speak on today's items? So you'd have to unmute yourself somehow to get on here. So it's *6. I'm really sorry. I'm getting a couple texts. Patty, would you jump in and explain what's going on or why we're having trouble? It looks like some people want to speak to this.
Yes, Chair. We have Rebecca Paris, who would like to speak during public comment. I'm not sure if it's for the first or the second. And we also have Claire and Brian Silverstein.
Okay. Well, if any of you would like to speak on an item on the agenda today, please unmute yourself and speak. Otherwise, we would like you to do it at the second public participation. So any members of the public wishing to speak at public participation? I'm going to ask one more time. It looks like a lot of people want to speak in the second public participation, which is fine. Any last time for the first public participation? Gone. We're going to close item number 7, public participation. If you haven't muted yourself, please do so. Thank you. Item number 8, correspondence from the Office of County Executive. I guess we're going to be voting on the biggest correspondence of the year coming up, so we don't have anything else. So we're going to go to item number 9. Item number 9, presentations. 9A, a proclamation honoring the 2020 Macomb County Board of Commissioners Pat Daniels Veteran of the Year. So last week, we named 25 nominees for the Pat Daniels Veteran of the Year Award. And today we're going to honor the individual who's going to receive that distinction for 2020. But first, I wanted to show you how this award came about and who it was renamed in honor of and showcase where each Macomb County Veteran of the Year recipient will have their name displayed for years to come. So Courtney has a little video, I believe. Courtney? I'm Bob Smith, Chair of the Macomb County Board of Commissioners. And nearly a year ago, myself and the other board members of the board had the honor of naming Pat as the first recipient of the Macomb County Veterans of the Year Award. Once we found out that Pat won this award, we knew right away that we should name the award after Pat and his legacy. Pat's basically embodies what a veteran should be. He's caring, he's selfless, he gives to the community, and he'll do anything to help others. Some of Pat's accomplishments include being a veteran of the United States Army during the Vietnam War. He served more than 17 years as a member of the Macomb County Veterans Board. The last, how many as president, Pat? 13. Last 13 as president. He was a charter member of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 154. I think you were president of that, the inaugural president of that, and president for 3 different terms in that. He was a treasurer of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, Chapter 35-3, all right? And, he's continuously fundraising for various veterans veterans organizations throughout the county, and importantly too, the organizer for the Memorial Ride for Freedom event, which you had that this year, correct?
Yes, raised $30,000.
Just this year raising $30,000. So today, I'm both honored and humbled to unveil the plaque that bears Pat's name as the inaugural recipient of the award and as the award's namesake. So the Board of Commissioners has created this award to further commend the time and sacrifices local veterans have given. And the plaque's a symbol of our deep appreciation for the selflessness and all the contributions that the veterans have made towards serving and protecting our country. So thank you, Pat. Without your commitment to serving and protecting this country, we wouldn't have the privileges that we all enjoy today and the freedoms that we enjoy. And I just am very proud to be the one giving you this honor. So thank you very much.
Bob, first I want to thank you, express my deepest appreciation for being named the Veteran of the Year for Macomb County and being the namesake of this award. As many of you know, I'm a Vietnam veteran who served my country, and since then have dedicated my life to helping other veterans in need here in Macomb County and beyond. I do this because I truly believe that the only thing we owe our veterans is everything. There isn't any step too far that we can go to help these people that have given us the freedom that we have. I share this award with every veteran who's ever offered a hand to another veteran who needed help or was in trouble or needed guidance. I look forward to continuing this and adding names to that plaque with the idea that somewhere down the road, every veteran in this county will get the recognition they have earned and deserve. So I'm honored to accept this on behalf of all the veterans in the county.
We're honored to have you working with us at the county and working for the veterans of our county. And listen, there's a lot of open spots here. We're hoping that you're here to introduce every one of these people that we're going to fill this plaque up with in the future.
I'll be honored.
Great.
There are some great veterans here in the county doing great stuff, and they need to be recognized.
We agree.
As you can see, I'm not a handyman.
It's all right. It works great. All right. Well, Pat, congratulations, and maybe we can do this from 6 feet away.
Thank you, Buck. Appreciate it.
Thank you for everything that you've done for us and continue to do for our veterans.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Courtney, for putting that together, and thank you, Pat, as always, for everything that you do for the veterans. As you just saw, this award's meant to further commend the time and sacrifices local veterans have given. Since we've created this program, we've received more than 50 different nominations of veterans exhibiting selfless acts of service, and I'm sure there are many more out there that just don't even know about this or no one knew to nominate them. The actions of each and every veteran nominated are commendable, but this year we had to pick one that stood out, and I really think that we did. The 2020 Pat Daniels Macomb County Veteran of the Year is a recipient of 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star, served as an intelligence reconnaissance scout for the 3rd Squadron, 4th Cavalry Regiment, 25th Infantry Division during the Vietnam War, was selfless in his time both overseas and continues to be at home, regularly volunteers his time to help veterans with their needs as they grow older, helps organize the annual Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies in Shelby Township. And if you've never been there, do yourself a favor and join him and them sometime. It's a great, they're both great ceremonies. And he's one of our active older adult advisory committee members. So if you haven't guessed it by now, and if Leon didn't blow it earlier, the 2020 Veteran of the Year is Phil Randazzo of Shelby Township. Phil, thank you for continuing to dedicate your time to others
And it deserves a big round of applause. I just wish we could be doing this in public, Phil. Your efforts over the years haven't gone unnoticed, and they continue to make an impact on countless individuals. It's an honor to serve, witness. It's an honor to witness the support you bring to other veterans in Macomb County and to have you serve on our Older Adult Advisory Committee. So, Phil, thank you very much. I'm going to give you the floor in a second, but I want to see if I'm going to have a feeling. Well, Phil, how about this? Can you unmute and you can accept your award, and then we'll let anybody speak who wants to speak. Phil, I believe you pushed *6.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Phil Randazzo.
Hello, Phil.
Shelby Township.
Yes, congratulations,
Good.
Phil.
Well, I'm all teary-eyed right now.
Well, listen, Phil, listen, there's a lot of people that deserve this, but no one deserves it any more than you. And we're happy to have you in our county helping all the veterans. If you want to say a few words, the floor is yours. If not, and you don't feel like it, we understand.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Pat Daniels for the words that he said a little bit ago. And I know he's been helping since he got out of Vietnam. I've been helping since I got out of Vietnam myself, luckily. And I do it for the ones that never made it out of Vietnam. They didn't have a chance to come home and talk about war. Also, we, as combat veterans in my unit, we fight so that people like you and the commissioners, everybody in positions of helping the citizens is protected, so that you can go ahead and keep peace and order here in this country. And we protect you people. A lot of people don't realize that. I don't want to get too deep and heavy, so I'm just going to end it right there. But I'm I'm surprised. I thought it was calling the Adult Advisory Committee a few minutes ago there. I was wondering how I got hooked up into the commissioners, which I'm very proud to talk to you people like this. It's a big honor. It's a very big honor for me to be in this group of people. This type of a meeting is very from being living in the jungle to not thinking about yourself. To be with you, that's an honor, and to receive that. That's for all the guys that I lost in my unit. So I'm going to end it right there, okay?
Yes, Phil, that's great. And listen, thank you very much. I have Commissioner Phil Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, Phil, I just want to thank you and congratulate you. I've had the privilege of working with you for about a decade now, and the key word in that proclamation is selfless, because everything you do is selfless. It is for our vets. It is for your buddies, and I just can't thank you enough and congratulate you enough, Phil. You've done a fantastic job. You're doing a fantastic job, and you will continue to do a fantastic job for our vets and representing our vets. Congrats again, Phil. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil, I just wanted to follow up on Phil Kraft's statement. Congratulations. Thank you. Anybody that can follow Pat Daniels' name for a recipient of an award for veterans is truly a hero, and I am just honored and privileged to know both of you. So God bless you, and thank you for your service. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. Phil, I've known you for a long time, and when there's a veteran, something going on to support veterans, you're there. In fact, you're before anybody arrives because you're often the one organizing the event or organizing the memorials. The 5 memorials we have in front of our county building was a result of your efforts leading the way. And the references out in Shelby Township and the continued emphasis you put on veterans, remembering those past as well as take care of those that are returning home today, is to be remarkable. And we want to thank you on behalf of everyone in the community, and you're most deserving of this award. I thank you and wish you many more years of continued success in your efforts to serve our veteran population. Call on me anytime. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Filippo, congratulations. I think I know you longer than anybody. I've known you since I was a kid. So congratulations, well deserved. I know firsthand what you've done, and I appreciate what you do for the veterans. And I look forward to working with you in my new role. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sauger.
Yeah. Congratulations, Phil. You should be honored. We're honored to have you here. Also, to have your name with Pat Daniels, who's an icon. You've got to be proud of that. So you're like 2 bowling pins. You're great people, and congratulations to you and the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sauger. And so that wraps it up, unless any other commissioner wishes to speak that I don't see on the list. But again, Commissioner Mr. Randazzo, thank you and congratulations, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your kind words. Thank you very much.
You take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye now.
All right. I guess we should have a receive and file for this. So can I get a motion, please?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Carabelli.
Support Duge.
Support by Duge. So can I please get a vote?
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 9B, proclamation offered in remembrance of Lieutenant Colonel Donald Digger Odell. Can I get a motion, please, in support?
Moved by Leonetti.
Supported by Romano.
Supported by Romano. Commissioner Leonetti, I believe you're going to tee this one up.
Yes, this is my fortune and honor to talk today about Lieutenant Colonel Donald Digger Odell. Before I begin, and this includes you, Mr. Randazzo, and you as well, Pat Daniels. You know, in the late 18th century, veterans of the Navy, okay, they were called, these grizzled veterans, they were called Iron Men, all right? And they would say that they were Iron Men that served on wooden ships. Well, in the mid-20th century, those Iron Men took to a different type of ship in the sky. They were the new ships, the jet propulsion jet engines, the F-50 Sabres. We're going to be talking about one of those Iron Men today, and that, of course, is Lieutenant Colonel Donald Digger Odell. Let me give you a little story here so you understand why this man was an Iron Man and why we're giving him this proclamation. Digger enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1952 at the beginning of the jet age and served at the Yuma Air Force Base in Arizona. That's actually where they broke the sound barrier out of. He earned his commission in wings as a pilot in 1955 and flew locations across the world from Germany to Kansas to Thailand. He was sent to Vietnam. On his 17th mission with his plane, he was shot down near Hanoi. Now, for over 5 years, Digger endured unthinkable torture as a prisoner of war in the infamous Hanoi Hilton prison. It takes an Iron Man to get through that. He was released in 1973 and returned home after peace talks with the U.S. He still served another 2 years. He retired in 1975, and among many of his awards, and I'm going to list them now, and you should write these down: Silver Star Medal, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star Medal for Valor with an oak leaf cluster, Distinguished Flying Cross with oak leaf cluster, 2 Air Medals, 2 Purple Hearts, Air Force Commendation Medal, Vietnam Service Medal with 11 Bronze Battle Stars, Prisoner of War Medal, and the Daughters of the American Revolution Medal of Honor. Takes an Iron Man to earn all those medals. When Dick retired, he still continued to serve as a public affairs officer for the Selfridge Air National Guard base. He then finally retired in 1990, but he didn't stop. Donald still continued to do several things. He devoted time to the Michigan Winter Special Olympics organization. He was an organizer and co-founder of the Wirtz Warrior Snowmobile Ride program, and he was, go figure, being an Ironman, in high demand as a speaker for many military and veteran events. They named a road on Selfridge Air Force Base after him. Given that this Ironman lived in our community, and unfortunately with a lot of the strange stuff in 2020, he has passed away. It's time now for Macomb County to recognize this Ironman in our community, and therefore we promote this proclamation in his honor.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry about that. So let me see if I have any speakers. I don't have any speakers on this, so we have a motion and support, so please vote.
Bob, there may be members of
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Family.
Yes, yeah, I would. Oh, yeah, thank you. If there are members of his family, that would be awesome. I had the honor of meeting him a few times at the base council meetings, and was always just such a nice and easy guy to go up and talk to. You'd never know he had all the accolades and did all the things that he did. He was such a humble person. Is there any of his family members on the line or on the computer that would like to speak?
Hi, this is Barbara Odell, Digger's daughter.
Oh, hi, Barbara. Thank you for joining.
Hi, thank you and for inviting us. I believe that my dad's wife Susan is also on one of the lines.
Fantastic. And
on behalf of her and our entire family, we are just honored that you are honoring our father, her husband, and we're all a little sad right now. It's just been a few weeks since he passed, but he was definitely our hometown hero and all of our personal heroes in our hearts and our family. So thank you so much for this today.
Well, we're sorry for your loss, and we thank you for sharing him with us down here in our area, because he was certainly someone worth getting to know.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you said you were going to speak on behalf of your family, so I'm guessing that no one else in your family wishes to speak. So with that, I'm going to call for a vote, and thank you for joining us.
And that motion passes unanimously, Chair Smith.
Thank you very much, Mike. And thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. So item number 10, 10A, Macomb County Designated Assessor. Can I get a motion to appoint William Griffin for the Macomb County Designated Assessor from January 1st, 21 through December 31st, 25?
So moved,
Mr. Chairman.
Great. I have motion. I have support. I believe we've already talked about this. If anyone would like to speak, let me know. Otherwise, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 11, COVID items. We have, I know we have Vicki Wolber on the line. So if I could get a motion, I mean, like we normally do, I think we normally get a motion for all of them. So Vicki can speak to all of these at once, and then we can go from there.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A through G, Mr. Carabelli.
Motion to approve Romano A through G.
Great. I have a motion and support. Vicki, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for having me today and doing all items at once. As usual, I will go through my report that is in the packet. The report that we have basically covers a time frame from October 17th through November 13th. November 13th was day 250 for us in dealing with COVID within the county. In regards to our EOC operations, most of them are in place as they have been. Again, continue to have no state emergency declaration in place. There are a number of health orders that have been issued, one most recently as Sunday. Probably one of the biggest, not necessarily changes because we've been doing it, but probably the biggest increase or uptick that we've seen that is being handled by our COVID team through our EOC has to do with county employee exposures that are happening, and we've seen a noticeable uptick in that. Again, goes along with seeing the uptick that we have within the county at large and the state and the country. We currently have 10 people on this team, and basically for our week ending November 15th, we had 79 different personnel that either were positive, had symptoms, or were close contact with someone. And I can tell you just in the past 3 days for this week, we've already had over 40. Most notably, through the first 15 days in December in total, we've had 133 within our employee classifications. For October, the entire month of October was 100, entire month of September was 31. So you can obviously see the uptick that we've had. Because of this uptick and because of the information that's gathered and what's needed for all of these different emails, the team was actually expanded and we hired 2 individuals from the outside just in the past week. So we're very excited to have them on board. They're nurse practitioners. They seem like they're really going to work well with us in that process. Moving on, just to highlight with community action, again, they're as busy as ever. We keep seeing that this is a trend and will be a trend upwards as we move through COVID in the next several months. So still a lot of work, a lot of really good work going on within the community. Probably one of the biggest areas there is the Head Start program. They were doing in-person classrooms where they could with the various school districts. Since the latest uptick, they have had to pull that back. And then obviously with the health order from the state. So they have gone all virtual within our Head Start program as well. It's also interesting to note that when you look at our public information and information that we have on our web, one of our top categories that has been increasing over the weeks has really been our food resources page, and that's actually the third highest accessed information within our site. So again, it just goes to prove that the need is out there and greatness is continuing. Within emergency management category, we did update our emergency plan that we have to have for the county. We're on version 7. We completed that towards the end of October. And with the most recent health order that came out, we did not need to update that. There were not really any changes in the new health order that affected us as an employer. Also, just to note within there is the Municipal Relief Fund, the money that we have allocated to the municipalities within the county. So far to date, 85% of those funds have been committed to and with projects submitted and at least vetted through the Emergency Management Office. So that is great to hear. As usual, there is a update on the PPE supplies and cash that we have for multiple uses within the county, and we're making increases there and still making deliveries as usual when items are requested. Finance report, you have the detailed budgets in front of you. Wednesday, I believe, actually, of this week, as well as our CARES Act project funds. Current revenues are just under $170 million. That's from all funding sources. Again, the CARES Act represents $152 million of that amount. We have just over $77 million in expenses that are out the door, and then we have another roughly $8.3 million that has been encumbered. So we're just over 50% spent out of all of our grant funding sources that we have. In regards to CARES Act itself, our CARES Act expenditures are just over $74 million. So again, almost half has been actually spent. And then I just kind of detailed in my report too, just if you're wondering maybe what some of our outstanding categories are. There are some large ones there. The Municipal Relief Fund that I just mentioned, no reimbursements have been processed yet, and that is roughly $10 million. We have payments to the ISD for $7 million. We still have public safety payroll to attribute to that budget, which is roughly $17 million. Business relief, there's still about $16 million outstanding. Our vulnerable populations is $6 million, and then roughly another $2 million in PPE. And then obviously too, there's some other smaller dollar projects obviously within there that make up the balance. So obviously we're coming to the end. These funds do expire the end of the year. So we're making a really good push to get invoices out, get receipts in, and process payments where they need to be made. In looking at our moving through for the health department and what we're looking at with where we're at with that to date, our totals in the county are just over 28,000 since the beginning. The month of November alone, we have 12,537 cases through today. Our positivity rate is at 6.8%, and we have 70 deaths this month already, unfortunately. Health department continues to be extremely busy, as we're all aware, with one of the biggest initiatives that continues and will continue is our testing sites. There are a number of testing sites in the county through some public and private partnerships, but we also have obviously our own testing site that we are running. We hit the 20,000 mark yesterday with the number of tests that we have administered ourselves since we opened in the beginning of June. We're roughly averaging about 700 people a day. We've been open just for a couple of weeks, going from the 3-day format to the 5-day format, and it seems like we're going to continue though with a high rate of tests out there each day. I had some issues with our traffic coordination, but we've since created a plan. Sheriff's Department has come in and helped out greatly, and they've helped ease that burden. Not only that helps the testing site, but obviously the people that are in line as well as those that travel within that area. So that seems to be going really well right now. Obviously, you have our disease investigation piece. There were just over 9,000 residents that they had to do in the past month and contact for cases. They're busy still with doing their contact tracing. However, basically our contact tracing is now limited to priority cases and areas only. We simply cannot keep up with the number of positive tests that are out there, even with the extra staff that we know was hired over the summer and fall. So we're really looking at schools as a priority. You have your congregate care, nursing home sites, outbreaks in certain industries or maybe a particular area, and then also within the hospital or healthcare field is where our concentration is at right now. Helpline consistently staying busy and increasing, just over 9,000 residents and calls received into the helpline that they've been assisting for a number of different reasons that they call, and we're just under 43,000 callers to date. So again, a lot of activity going there. Just want to highlight too that the health department is trying to keep up with the other areas where they have needs within the community. They still have their regular vaccination program that is going on. They've done just over 1,500 vaccines through their immunization program. They've done the flu vaccine as well. We're running a drive-through site or a clinic for that over at the Verkulen building. We've been doing that since September 19th. We've served just over 2,200 people. And the WIC program as well has been extremely busy taking appointments and issuing benefits to just under 12,000 participants. And that's just in the last month that WIC has been able to serve that many people in need within that program. Moving on to human resources. The director there, Andy McKinnon, launched a Nice Dignity campaign with others in the county that we thought was important for a variety of reasons. So there's a program that will be continuing on, and hopefully people will continue to see that and take an interest within that. I also already talked about the nurse practitioners that they worked on with us to bring those people on. Within IT, again, very busy department, have just under, I think, 10 million of our CARES Act dollars that they are utilizing. They've continued to process help desk tickets, so just over 100 of those in the past month. Some of the projects that they're working on is a laptop replacement program for people who have laptops. We also have a desktop replacement program that they're doing where people are getting laptops instead of the desktops, again, to help with our remote work. There are a number of security-related programs that they have started to institute that obviously keeps all of our remote working environment safe and secure in all of our data. They actually have 63 CARES Act projects in place, 17 of them complete, and 45 are actively being implemented. I can tell you that, again, as COVID travels on, they are starting to see, as we have in other areas, some delays in the equipment. So I know IT is working extremely hard to make sure that they're able to meet our December deadline in these projects moving forward. Joint Information Center, again, our public information continues to be extremely busy and vital to our program and getting the information out to the public. So they've had a number of initiatives within there within the last month, and then most notably as well for the people in that group, I will talk about in a little bit about the JIT project that we have before you as well to do that renovation in the area that they work out of. Planning and economic development, again, they're fostering a multitude of grant programs for us within the county. I know the commissioners have been receiving updates on the businesses that receive those checks. In addition into that program and the reimbursement, there is our Back to Business, the PPE kits. We're at over 4,000 kits being distributed within that program, so that's still going really well. Our workplace safety reimbursement program, we've issued 755 checks recently for just over 4.7 million in the last few weeks. The Online Business Connect program, we have projects and applications that are still in process and being worked on, but so far 160 of 525 businesses have been able to be helped with that program, and that totals just over 1.5 million. We had some funding left over in our early rounds of our sustainability grants, so planning went ahead and did a final round or last round, if you will, through that program. It closed on November 2nd. They've already started to issue checks under that last round, and they've issued 460 checks and roughly $2 in the last couple weeks. The nonprofit grant had closed, and now we're starting to see money go out the door for that program, and we have 88 nonprofits that have received basically 1.5 million through that program. The agricultural businesses had a program through there as well, and that program, the applications are still being reviewed. And probably one of the nice events that they instituted through the planning department, and again through great ideas with their employees, was to try to get checks out sooner to individuals. So rather than mailing the checks out, they decided to do a program where the businesses could come and pick up their check. So we're doing that at our warehouse last few Fridays, and this Friday we're running that program. It gets the businesses their checks, their cash in hand, and at the same time they're offering them PPE kits. So it's really a great program. There's a lot of heartfelt stories that are there, and I think the employees that are processing that program really get to see the difference that money and all their efforts are making within the community. All right, jumping to some new items that are going on in the healthcare hospital. Obviously, as we've seen, there is the increase within the hospital systems on the number of cases that they're seeing in their ERs, as well as those people that are being admitted. We've had 2 meetings now within the last few weeks with our hospitals in the county and other partners within that realm. So we are again closely monitoring that situation, continuing to work with them on their needs, any of the upticks that they're seeing. None of them are at their surge status yet. While they are increasing, they're still basically at a stable level that they're maintaining. So we are having those discussions. And going back just to the testing topic, just want to continue to reference the great partnership that the health department created with Wayne State University and Access. They've actually increased the number of testing that they've done in the county at our request. They picked up some Saturdays for us. So that's really been a wonderful partnership that we've been able to do, and we're thankful for the service. Looking at some of our current and long-term initiatives, obviously remote work is important. I already talked on the employee exposures and that we expect those to increase. I think the board members are aware that we're looking at getting the facilities cleaned over the next couple of weeks as well. Bringing Jarvis back in, we thought it was important to do that in addition to all the great cleaning that F&O is doing. We thought it would be good, though, to come back and do the fogging or spraying techniques, as well as some wipe downs in areas where requested. I know there's been discussions at some of the previous meetings this month, too, about the need for hiring within different departments. That is ongoing, obviously, within the health department for the testing site, most notably the vaccination site planning that is continuing. There are a number of people that we need at the vaccination site at different levels. At the vaccination site alone, we're probably looking at maybe anywhere to 200 to 300 people needed. That's based on people's availability, making sure that we have various shift coverages. We anticipate that the vaccination site will, when we open that up, will be operable Monday through Saturday, and then also we'll go into some evening hours. So that is quite an undertaking within that facility to be able to do that. Obviously, we're continuing to track all our finances, and we're looking into, costs associated with moving into 2021. And I know through the budget process that we've done, that we currently do have some funding aside in the general fund within the COVID realm and set aside for that. And then with that, I can touch on just very quickly the other items. One item that you have before you is for F.H. Martin Constructors. That is for the JIC Media Center. We did put out a bid in October. We had 8 companies reply. From those 8, we interviewed 4 different companies that we thought had good bids and the right pricing within the categories. We ended up choosing and are recommending F.H. Martin for $1,357,600. Technically, they were the second lowest bid, not the lowest bidder. Within our bid documents, there was a provision because of all the technology that is going into this center and that technology that is connected back here to the EOC. Within Comtech, we did ask them to work with the preferred vendor. They talked to that vendor, but they did not include that vendor within their bid. They want a different route and with a different vendor, which we did allow them to do that within the bid documents. But what we had asked them to do is if they were going to choose another vendor, that they come back to us first before submitting their bid so that we could vet that vendor out, what was being offered, and make sure that it was comparable. And they did not do that. Basically, for that reason, we are recommending F.H. Martin Contractors, who were the second lowest bidder for that project. You also have 2 items related to the freezers that are necessary for the COVID vaccines that are coming in for the health department. One item is the budget amendment that's needed for $150,200 just to move that money into the appropriate categories and allow for the payment. We needed to move forward with this purchase due to timing and also a concern that many other people are also going to be wanting and needing these freezers. So we actually have a total of 20 different type freezers that are being purchased for $152,200. There are 3 different vendors for the purchase of these items. You also have 2 items that are related to our PPE category, or actually 3 actually, but one is for gloves with the purchase through Assure Global in the amount of $63,567. We also purchased digital thermometers for $42,000 from BSD Management. And then the last item that we're looking for is for the facility cleaning from Jarvis Property Restoration. We're looking in an amount not to exceed $800,000. Jarvis is the company that did our cleaning the first time around. We have added the jail and the JJC facility this time around at their request. And while we're still in the process of getting that scheduled with Jarvis, and the amount that do not exceed is based on the square footage that they did last time. Within the jail and JJC, they're still working out exactly which areas they want cleaned. So we had to add estimates in. And then Jarvis also gave us, I believe, a close to 30% discount over their pricing last time. So based on the invoices we had before, the square footage, and through Steve Spiegel and his office, we came up with the amount of the $800,000 to not exceed. And with that, that is my report for this month. And I will take any questions.
Thanks, Vicki. Look again, a few minutes ago I didn't have any speakers. So I will tell the commissioners that I do not have any speakers.
You should have, there were like 4 of us, now there's 2.
All right, let me try again. But anyway, go ahead. I saw you, Commissioner Kleinfeld, at one point, then it disappeared. So
yeah, now there's 4. Okay. My first question is, obviously, you're correct with contract tracing. Once it's this wide and community spread, it actually becomes rather inefficient to do that, doesn't it?
Yes, from the perspective of so many people having it, and then just to have enough people to be able to do that process. Yes, between the hiring and the number of people and the hours worked to do any of the contact tracing, they still do the investigation with the positive person. It does become very difficult. If you remember in the beginning, during the first wave when we went through this, we got to this point as well where we essentially stopped doing contact tracing basically altogether. Right now, because of the staff that we do have, we're able at least to go through a priority list and hit those high areas of where there's concern.
you might not be the right person to ask this question, but do you know what the turnaround time for results for COVID testing is? And do you know if the different locations on our site have the same turnaround time?
For our testing site, with the lab that we're using, our turnaround time continues to be very good. We're still at roughly 48 hours for test results. I think within the rest of the community, I think some of them are at 48 hours, but some of them, I believe, are also a little longer, going from 3 to 5 days.
Okay, so that was what I wanted to know. Does it matter where you go? Because I know somebody that did not come to our facility but went to one of the ones listed on our site, and the turnaround was 4 to 6 days. It may come sooner than that, but I was just a little surprised at that. And then the last one is with regard to the deep cleaning. I 100% understand the jail, doing the deep cleaning at the jail. But we already did the deep cleaning, and it's only as clean as that until people go into the building, correct? And so if most people have been working from home, and we've had a handful of cases come in, also the virus will only last for a certain period of time on surfaces, but would you pay several $100,000 for a handful of cases in a building that are a handful of cases over time, when I think that that's probably almost everywhere we would go, shopping and things like that?
Are you speaking to the jail specifically?
No, the jail
general?
Even more, because there's a much higher chance of an outbreak because of the confinement that they face. No, I meant the other facilities.
Oh, okay, sure. I just wanted to make sure. Well, we don't have a handful of cases within our county facilities for actual positive cases and or people who are symptomatic. I would guesstimate that we're probably over 200 at this point in time, and we've seen a sharp increase even within the past week. I believe out of the 79 cases we had 30 positive cases, and that's just positive, it's not even the symptomatic. I think too, with as great a cleaning job as F&O is doing, I think it's still a good idea to get it sprayed and fogged in areas that we all may not be thinking of. Sometimes that get missed. I can tell you, having a conversation with one of the commissioners over the past week, an area that came up was with the blue coats. And are we regularly wiping down and thinking of their areas? And somewhat admittedly, we weren't. So that was a great reminder to be able to do that. And I think just from a health, safety, and overall feeling of safety and security, that we are taking the time and effort to do everything we can to try to keep the employees safe and try to mitigate some of that risk from the touch surfaces and the high traffic areas.
And are we doing the same thing with Martha T. Berry? Do you know?
Yes, we are. Ben Treppa is waiting for a call back from them. They're not on the schedule yet, but no, they are part of our plans.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Caravelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vicki, question. The contract, not the construction one, for the cleaning, the name of the company again?
Jarvis.
Yes. Did that go out for bid again?
No, it did not. And that was based on the timing issue and their previous experience with us, and the fact that they offered the discount that they did offer their pricing earlier. But no, it did not.
First time it didn't go out for bid because it was under emergency orders from the executive when you guys, I know you did your due diligence, but it didn't really go out for bid the first time, did it?
No, it did not.
Yeah, I would strongly suggest, you're already going through it, but if we go out again, I think we should at least go out for bid again on that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoff.
Thank you, Chair. First, Vicki, for the record, I was the commissioner that called her on the Blue Coats. 7 of them had contacted COVID-19, and I talked to Vicki on a Friday, and on Monday morning, they were over there in hazmat suits cleaning. So I want to thank you very much for that and on their behalf. Secondly, Vicki, you had mentioned the lines over at the health center are getting very large. I had heard the waiting time was between an hour and a half and 2 hours to get tested. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes, it is. Generally, we are much busier in the morning. I think people are even lined up there now. I heard as recently today, we open up at 9. Some people are now arriving at 7:30, 8 o'clock. So the line starts out very early and gets long. I can tell you, and maybe we'll work on this on some of our messaging. I happened to go over to that area to walk through at the building, and there was actually nobody in line. And that was about 1:45, 1:30, 1:45.
That's good to know.
And they were saying that, yes, it's later in the day, it is not as busy. So that's something we'll work on in our messaging and share that if people can come later in the day, they may not have to wait as long.
Another question on the purchasing of the freezers, which I had seen on Channel 4 News was a prerequisite to receiving the vaccine. I'm assuming by virtue of us getting freezers, we're going to be a distribution point and there's a plan being put together on how to distribute the vaccine once that's available. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Yes. We have a freezer coming from the state, actually, that I believe that freezer arrived. And then we had additional freezers that we need. And the assumption and what we have been told is we will not only get vaccine for our site, but we may also need to distribute to some of the smaller counties around us in the northern end.
Thank you. And once again, I can't thank you enough for such a thorough and comprehensive report. That's all I have, Chairman.
You're welcome.
Bob, you're muted.
Probably the best I've sounded all meeting. We don't have any other speakers, so we had a motion and a second. So thank you, Vicki. Please vote, commissioners.
Commissioners, I apologize. There was an error in the vote. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that vote and prompt it again.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Should now see another vote.
Yep.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 12A needs to be separated out. Can I get a motion for 12A budget amendment capital improvement plan Dell financing?
So moved, Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you.
Support, Hall.
Support. Thank you. Jaco, I believe you're here to speak on 12A about this. Would you unmute yourself and are you here?
I'm here, Commissioner. Can you hear me? Commissioner, can you just read the agenda item to me? I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the budget amendment. It was waived by the committee chair, so today's the first we will be hearing about. It's a capital improvement plan, Dell financing, PowerMax payment of $329,562.24.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Last year, we came to purchase 2 Dell arrays that we use for our backend in our data center. It is pretty much our server environment. And we purchased it with 0% interest over 5 years. And this is the second payment that we want to make this year. So we will come to you every year when it's time to make our next payment. So that's what this one is for.
Sorry, I keep muting because everybody keeps getting a little muffled. But all right, thank you. Commissioners, again, I'm looking on my screen and I don't see any speakers. So we have a motion and support. Please vote on 12A.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Item 12. Thank you, Jaco. 12B and C were forwarded, I believe, from Internal Services Committee recommendations. So can I get a motion for B and C?
Motion to approve B and C, Commissioner Drollet.
Support Hall.
Commissioner Duvey.
Right, we have motion for 12B and C. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 13, Health and Human Services Committee recommendations. We do have one that needs to be discussed. Item 13A was waived. Can I get a motion for 13A?
Motion by Romano.
I have a motion. Can I have support?
Support by Brown.
Thank you. So item 13A, I believe, is Ernest. Are you with us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
Hi,
Commissioners. This is just an extension related to the previous item 13F on this one. 13F was an initial proposal for Macomb County to participate in the Digital Divide program that was announced by the state of Michigan. After they had allocated all of the funds, some counties weren't able to spend out their money, so they had additional funds available. So we've added 50 extra devices on top of the 250 that were originally approved for that Digital Divide program.
All right. Let me, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Ernest, is that coming out of the CARES Act funding?
From the state of Michigan, it's a little less than clear. I believe the state of Michigan is using some of their CARES Acts to fund the Digital Divide program. I can't tell you if it is exclusively CARES Acts, but I suspect it is supported by the CARES Act at the state level.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any other commissioners wishing to speak, so please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernest, for joining us. Items 13, I'll take B through C, or H, B through H, if anyone wishes to.
Motion to approve B through H.
All right.
Support Drollet.
Thank you. I have a motion and support. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 14A, purchase tactical technology surveillance platform equipment upgrade. Can I get a motion and support for that?
Motion by Leonetti.
We have support. All right. So I have motion.
Support by Romano.
Okay, thank you. Captain Briney, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Hello there. Welcome.
Thank you.
Give us a brief overview of this and say hi to your dad for me.
Sure will. Thank you. Captain Steve Briney with the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. I appreciate you guys having me today. We are looking to update some antiquated surveillance equipment for the Sheriff's Office enforcement team. The Sheriff's Office enforcement team is a group of Macomb County Sheriff's detectives who investigate violent crimes, conduct narcotic investigation, performs surveillances, execute search warrants, makes fugitive apprehensions, and handle major sensitive investigations. This purchase will assist in updating the surveillance platform from analog cameras to digital cameras, which will result in a higher definition video with increased low light sensitivity. It is cost effective in regards to personnel. Currently, the van has to be manned by a detective to operate the recording equipment. With the updates, the van can be parked remotely for up to 11 days without being manned, and the video can be collected and analyzed as needed. With the updates, the camera equipment can be accessed remotely so that the detective can monitor and document criminal activity from a phone or computer, which will increase officer safety and reduce personnel costs. The equipment being replaced is original equipment installed in 2010. With this information, I'm requesting that you approve the purchase of surveillance equipment from Tactical Technologies for $35,000.
Thank you. Commissioner Haw.
That was the last request, Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Well, no one removed you. Let's see. Let me just double check on here, Captain. Let's see if we have anybody. Commissioner Drollet.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Captain. Do you know if this item was in the original budget proposal for 2020, or is this in addition to the current budget?
This is going to be taken out of the state forfeiture funds. I'm not sure what that original one was. I'm sitting in for Captain Daniels, who could not be here today.
Okay, so the funds are coming from the state?
Yep, the set state forfeiture funds.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. I don't have any other speakers. Captain Briney, thanks for joining us. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 15, Audit Budget Committee recommendations. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move A through F.
A through F, I will take. Commissioner Leonetti or Drollet. Yes. Can I get a second for that?
Support from Kraft.
Thank you. A through F. Let's see. Anybody who looks, man, Commissioner Haw, every time I go back, I see your name on there. Commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Looks like maybe we might have 15G or Commissioner Drollet. Anybody like to make any other? I would like to separate I for sure, just to talk on it for a second. So if we can get G or G and H, that would be great.
I'll make a motion to approve G and H.
Support Romano.
All right. I have a motion to support G and H. Anybody wishing to speak on Commissioner Drollet?
Drollet.
Yes.
I just wanted to note that I'm going to be voting in opposition, but not because I oppose the programs or the concerns of the commissioners, but rather because we're not able to identify an offsetting budget cut to in order to provide for this funding. So it's not about the programs themselves, but rather just the inability to find another area to trim the budget to afford it. Thank you.
Thank you. Understood. Jump on here one more time. Any other commissioners wishing to speak? Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to point out to commissioners, because there was a change in the wording today, that the one on the animal control is a reduction in revenue instead of an addition in the expenditures. And that the new wording came in today. Thank you.
Okay, so it is a reduction in incoming funds rather than an increase in expenditures. Okay. Let me just look and see. I don't have anybody else on the line to speak, so please vote, commissioners.
That motion passes 11-1 with Commissioner Drollet voting no.
Thank you. Item 15I. I get a motion?
Motion to approve, Hall.
Support from Kraft.
Support from Kraft. All right, commissioners, let's see. I don't show any speakers. I just wanted to separate this for a couple reasons. I agree, like Commissioner Drolet on the last two, I agree with all of these. There is, and Commissioner Kleinfeld brought up the other day that there is approximately 1.7 million of this 8 million doesn't have an actual quote or a bid. I know Steve, Mark Delden talked to it, and Steve talked to it and sent us something this morning explaining it. And while I don't doubt at all the eventual need for it or the reasons behind it, as our board rules go, we normally don't do, I would say normally, we never give out this kind of money without some type of bid or quote. I know we have until the end of this year to spend this money. Anytime that you've come to us with any type of request to bypass, we've always done it. So that is there for your, in order to get this done before the end of the year. But I would be willing to vote yes for 6.3 million of this, and then just wait on the 1.7 million to see the numbers and the quotes. Once again, we've never done this with our board rules. This is an awful lot of money. So if I don't get a motion or an amendment to go to the 6.3, then I'm just going to vote no based on that. All right. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Leonetti.
Yeah, you know what? I will make you pretty much said everything I was going to say, Bob. I will make an amendment to the motion based on what you had said to hold back the 1.7 with the understanding that we should be able to get those numbers before the time runs out, I would assume. So I will make that motion and look for support.
Could I have a motion from Leonetti? I get some, anybody wishing to support that motion? All right. Motion dies for lack of support. Commissioner Duche.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question, and I don't know who this should go to, whether it's to Steve or to Vicky. Question as far as the medical examiner's office. Are we in the process of getting more freezers there? Do we need freezers for bodies there? Are we out of room yet? Where are we in the process of taking care of residents that have passed? And I don't know who to ask that one to.
I'm not sure who's on the line either for that, Commissioner. So if anybody's on the line that can answer that from the executive's office or Vicky, I mean, well, that's the executive's office, or the medical examiner's office. Anybody on the line?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, who's this?
This is Commissioner Brown.
Oh, Commissioner Brown, are you on the list, or are you going to try to answer Commissioner Duche's question?
I was going to offer up, I spoke to the medical director asking that very question 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, he said that they weren't close to capacity at all, and that between them and the hospitals, there was adequate space. Now, it may have changed since then, but that was the question I was asked and answered by the director of the department over there, for what it's worth. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I understand we were in good shape a couple of months ago. I'm just wondering in what shape we are now with this new outbreak, or however you want. I see here, are we getting more, did we get more refrigerated trailers?
Chairman Smith.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Oh, Mr. Delby, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Duche and the rest of the board, I did mention several days ago, might have been in a meeting earlier this week or last week, that with the uptick of COVID, there has been increased demand at our medical examiner's office. And as you know, we're currently undergoing an expansion there. Part of that expansion is to expand the cooler space.
we have rented through general conditions some temporary coolers to be placed outside the building. Our health officer, Bill Rodella, has asked that we continue renting these coolers through the month of January because we are anticipating that we're going to need them. Thank you.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you very much for that answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Oh boy. I have kind of clicked myself out of the other part of this meeting, Mike, but I'm still on the video. So was there anybody else on the list to speak?
Mr. Chair, I was on the list at one point. I'm not sure if I'm next.
Yeah,
Commissioner Drollet.
Go ahead, Commissioner. I'm going to, I zipped myself out of the meeting on that part. I'm going to get back into it, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Just a clarification. The items that we'd be moving to the capital improvement plan, the medical examiner's office, the Joint Information Media Center, and the freezer renovation, I'm of the understanding these are items we had previously approved, and we are just moving them from the COVID approval to capital projects. And I just want to get clarification on what the process was with regard to bidding on these three particular projects. Was there a bidding process? Was there not one? And indeed, just clarification that these were items that we had previously approved, but are being restructured within the budget, essentially. I don't know if Mr. Delvin or if there's some, or Steve, or somebody's available to answer that question.
So, Leon, I'll go ahead. Steve, I see Steve.
I don't know if I want to answer this. I don't want to step on Vicky's toes, or Mark's, but relative to the medical examiner's office, the board has previously approved the contract for the architectural services, the owner's representative contract, and the construction. There are a number of other items included in the budget that I've outlined on schedules that I provided to the board last evening for items such as permitting and rental of the cooler that Mr. Delvin explained, utility fees, relocation from medical examiner's office to the juvenile court building, and some other ancillary costs that were not bid out because of the nature of them. What we're also moving is money for contingency, and we've committed some other items such as furniture as well relative to that project. So there are some items that the board hasn't approved because of the nature of them and their dollars. Relative to the freezer expansion, the board has approved all three of those contracts relative to that project. And relative to the Joint Information Center, the board has approved contracts for the architectural services and then just approved the construction contract. At this particular meeting, the remaining items in that project budget are for furniture, technology, and carpeting, and those items have not been purchased yet, but will be coming to the board for approval in December, as I understand through conversations I've had with Vicki. If I'm wrong on that, Vicki, please correct me.
Steve, thank you very much for that answer. Being that we're moving these projects from one funding source to the capital projects fund, would further expenditures that have not yet been approved, like for the medical examiner's office, contracts that have not yet been approved, would that be able to be slowed down because the deadline is not quite so tight of December 31st, so that those contracts will be coming before the board as required by the by ordinance?
My answer to that would be yes, Commissioner. I don't really expect any other contracts, so to speak, for the medical examiner's office. I think all the large contracts have been awarded to date. We may have some ancillary costs here or there that may, for some reason, require board approval because of threshold amounts. I think those would probably go through the normal process now that we are changing the funding source.
Hey, Steve,
And now that we're changing the funding source, purchases will be going through the purchasing policy as well, correct?
Correct.
So Leon, can I stop you for 1 second?
Yes.
Steve, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right, and maybe I'm not. It looks like what we're approving here, let's just pull the medical examiner out, 5 million too. I think we've approved contracts of about 4 million for them. And I think the media center, we're at 2 million, but we've approved contracts roughly about 1.5 million. So when you say ancillary costs, like I'm seeing 1.2 million in ancillary costs for the medical examiners and 500,000, and I'm rounding these off, in the media center. So if that's what you're calling ancillary costs, I mean, listen, maybe some of them aren't even bid out and they're just a bunch of furniture, but normally you give us at least quotes or bid sheets or something for things that add up to that amount. And am I right on that or no? Maybe I'm not.
No, when I'm speaking about ancillary costs, I'm speaking of building permits, the rental of the coolers, utilities for the cooler. We have some insurance costs in the budget, relocation costs, those things. I think the large dollars that are being transferred that have not been allocated or awarded or spent yet, I guess, would be the contingency dollars in the ME's office project. I think relative to the JIC renovation, it's the furniture, flooring, and carpeting and the technology.
All right, well,
which those contracts will be selecting vendors and all those sorts of things and coming to the board in December for approval.
So you're looking for the money first and the approval after?
Yeah, we're trying to get all that out of the way first and then coming back to you next month. Really what's left is the JIC project.
Oh, just if I could
go ahead.
Ask for, thank you, Chair. If I could ask for clarification, we are approving the project, and then the bids and the purchases and the contracts are coming before the board as we normally would in any budget. At least that's sort of my understanding. What we're approving is these projects are approved for the budget like we would if we were fixing the boathouse, for the sheriff's department. When we approve the boathouse for the 2021 or 2020 budget, when we approve that budget item, we don't necessarily approve all the contracts at the same time or all the purchase orders at the same time. They come then back before us with those as that boathouse project proceeds. Is that correct?
No, we always get our contracts and all our paperwork before we actually approve the budget. We're on the budget right now. We're actually allocating the money for everything. Now, these projects, like I said, a lot of them have already been approved. The contracts have been approved, but there is a significant amount that they're, Steve said they're going to come back with, but we are forwarding the money first, which is never what we do, and that's my only reason I'm going to vote no to that part of it. I trust that they're going to come back with things in next month to make up, to show where that extra 1.2 and $500,000 are. But my thing is the board doesn't work that way, and we have time, so it doesn't have to work that way in this situation. But so I want you to know we're approving the money right now without having any of the paperwork that's required under our rules to come in for this type of money. That's what I see anyway. So, and that's what Crystal has mentioned to me earlier today and during this week.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. That would be of concern to me, but I interpret it, and perhaps somebody from finance or executive would explain. When we approve a budget, we're approving the intention to spend on specific areas of the budget, specific items. And then as the time goes by, those contracts come before us, those purchase orders come before us, that sort of thing, and we approve them because we've approved the project. Is this different? I guess
Leon, we're doing a budget amendment. This isn't the budget. This is a budget amendment which requires the paperwork to come through to us for the amendment. The whole budget itself is a different story. That's the couple items down. So anyway, all right, you can talk to Steve. I'm just telling you how we normally do things. This is not how we normally do it.
No, I do appreciate the discussion on this. So, Steve, do you see that any differently?
in the sense that we are asking to move the entire project budget, come back to you with a handful of remaining purchases, primarily in the JIC project, next month, and getting one item out of the way, and those approvals will come back to you next month. It may seem a little different than what we normally do. It's just trying to make it administratively easier for us a little bit.
If we didn't approve this, what would happen?
If you didn't approve the entire amount, so as I see it, what you're really suggesting is not approving the transfer of mainly the contingency budget in the medical examiner's office and whatever's been allocated or allowed or allowance in the JIC project for furniture, carpeting, and technology is how I see it. Because we've awarded contracts and had other costs in the medical examiner's project that we've already spent. So you're looking at 665 and 500, so $1.1 million or $1.2 million. And if you didn't transfer it today, next month we're going to be coming to you for approval for the purchase of the flooring and the technology and such for the JIC project. And if we tap into the contingency, we'd come back to you for approval if anything we need to tap into the contingency for exceeds $35,000.
Okay.
And so if there are items that we need to utilize or pay for by utilizing contingency money that fall under $35,000 that normally would not come to you, we would have to come back to you if you didn't transfer the contingency money today or authorize the transfer of the contingency money.
Okay. And just to note, though, the item that we're voting on, as set up before us, item I, is not just what Steve stated, though. It also involves a transfer of public safety payroll into CARES Act, into a CARES Act item. So if indeed there wanted to be a separation and a breakdown, someone would have to make a much more detailed amendment to that effect, because we're voting on I as it's currently stated.
Right, and Leon, that's what Commissioner Leonetti did. I believe he was actually putting that 6.3 million would actually cover all the contracts that we actually have approved up to the $8 million and left the other money sitting aside waiting for the paperwork to come back. So that was, I believe, what Commissioner Leonetti had. So you are correct. And I do not advocate not passing some measure of this at the minimum, everything we've approved in our contracts that have come before us, which would be 6.3. I'm just telling you I can't vote for the 1.7 extra. So however you guys, everybody would like to do it, that's great. So I think you're getting the deal.
I appreciate that. And it's good to have this discussion. I guess a lot of us were not quite understanding the exact nature of Commissioner Leonetti's motion at the time. But at this point, before us is the whole boat, I guess you could say.
Correct.
And there's $800,000 of CARES Act funding, or rather $8 million of CARES Act funding that now we're having to include in the vote. So I just want to clarify that. So thank you. That's all I have, and I appreciate Steve's clarification and yours, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Drolet, just so you know, that $8 million is actually the accumulative of the medical examiners, the media center, and renovation. It's not separate from that. That is where the money is coming from.
Right, exactly. In other words, we're using CARES Act for that public safety payroll instead of CARES Act for those other projects.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Jeez, I lost my place here. Who's ready to speak? Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you.
Sorry we were late.
I've said before with respect to this, we get into these little fights over these dollar amounts, but the key to this whole thing lies in that lawsuit. that if we get that lawsuit resolved and our access to the view-only financials would solve a lot of the issues we talk about with, with concern of contracts not coming to us. Steve, I have a couple of questions for you. The first is with respect to the medical examiner's office. I think, number one, what I want to eventually get to is when you come to us with a project that you want to approve, that we know what the entire cost of that project's going to be, not just the cost of the architectural contract and the construction contract. I would assume that you would have known ahead of time there's going to be some furniture, there's going to be some technology costs. I think I'd like to work on how we get there down the road and not try to settle that today. But I do have a question with regard to the technology on the medical examiners, because it's not listed in what we approved. It's listed in those separate costs, and it's over $300,000, and it says committed or spent to date $222,000. So I didn't have anything more than this from you on that particular thing. So what is that? Is it money that has been spent? Do we have a contract that we haven't voted on? What is the $305,000?
Yeah, there are 4 or 5 contracts that have been awarded. There are 2 of them actually that will be coming to you as a ratify item next month for the security system and the wireless and VoIP equipment. And then there's some others that are below the $35,000 limit for low voltage cabling and some fiber and things of that nature.
Well, first of all, they're with companies, right, Steve? Because I believe what our ordinance says is if the collective amount is over 35. So
yes, they're with different companies, the 3 of them. The 2 I'm talking about are separate companies.
Okay. And then, again, all of these costs are part of the collective to achieve the end means of the project. So back when I was on city council, our DPW guy came to us and he wanted to build a salt building. And the city manager said he's not giving you the true cost. Well, we had a half an hour of a fight to only figure out that he was giving us the walls, but he was going to come to us the following year for the roof. And so I think the point is, if we could reach a point where when we're voting on a contract, we know what the total cost of the project's is going to be, not just that contract at that moment. I'm not going to hold this up. I raised it on Monday, number one, because I thought the media center was more of a want than a need, but there were no commissioners that gave any indication of that. So, we're starting a new year with a whole new commission. I'm going to throw a little trust at you guys on this one and see if we can't redevelop the relationship on how we do these in the future. That's my thought process on it. Thank you.
I think we can work toward that goal.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'll say for my own defense, this is not about trust. This is just about the system that we've had in place for 2 years at least. So it has nothing to do, and I trust that you're coming back with everything next month, Steve.
I'm not exactly sure why you're responding in between each person instead of chairing the meeting.
Because it is my meeting, so that's why I can do that. So just like you do in your meetings all the time. Commissioner Hall.
Okay, children, that's enough. First of all, Steve, I did hear you say on multiple occasions that you'll be coming back to us in December to get approval for these expenditures through our process. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I did want to remind everybody on Monday, when this was on the agenda, it passed unanimously. Is that correct?
As far as I recall, yes.
Well, my memory's better than yours then, because I recall it passing unanimously. I did understand Commissioner Leonetti's motion. I didn't agree with it. I didn't support it. So if somebody didn't understand the motion, I'm sorry to hear that. That's all I have, Chairman.
All right, Commissioners, I don't have anybody else on the queue to speak, so we have a motion and support. Please vote. Mike, are you there?
Just a second, he's stuck on mute. He'll be back in a second.
Okay.
It passed 10-2.
Thank you. With which commissioners voting no?
Just a second. Leonetti and Smith voting no.
Thank you. Item 16, Government Oversight Committee. 16A, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Kraft.
Second, Haw.
Kraft and Commissioner Haw. And one more. Please vote. Looks like we might have, oh, there we go.
That motion passes 12-0.
Great, welcome back. Item 17, looks like we have A through D that we could have a motion on.
Move A through D. Commissioner Drollet.
Support Romano.
All right, I have motion and support. Commissioners, please vote.
My Jack votes yes, Mike. I'm having problems with my, oh, there we go.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 18, the 2021 Comprehensive General Appropriations Ordinance. Can I get a motion?
Motion by Romano.
Support by Kleinfeld.
I have a motion and support. Commissioners.
Could I please have the ordinance read in its entirety?
Sure.
I withdraw.
How about tomorrow?
Sounds great. All right, so I don't have any commissioners to speak on this, so please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 19A. Can I get a motion for 19A?
Moved by Romano.
I have Commissioner Romano, and I heard somebody else got stepped on.
Support by Kleinfeld.
Motion. All right. So item 19A. Proclamation commending Commissioner Carabelli for his end of term. So, I'm going to read a few things, and I'm sure there'll be a few commissioners that want to speak. And for those of you in the public that don't know this, Commissioner Carabelli and Commissioner Drollet, this is their last meeting. They were both elected, both in Shelby and Macomb Township, and their posts start up, I believe, next week. So this has to be their last meeting. So we are going to accept your resignation. And Commissioner Carabelli, so he served 12 years on the commission, the last 4 as vice chair. He's been an active member of many committees, co-chair planning and economic development, vice chair buildings, chair of infrastructure, co-chair of the economic development. I served on SEMCOG, which we all know what kind of great job he's done on SEMCOG from 2010 till now. He's including serving as the chair of SEMCOG's county block caucus, which he was responsible for helping bring a lot of money into Macomb County. He served through the transition from general law to executive form of government. He served on the Tri-County Summit Planning Committee. So Jim's always willing to work across the aisle. He's always willing to look at things from 50,000 feet. And he never hesitates to ask the tough questions. And he's, always focused on just providing the most amount of service for his residents and the residents in the county, but at the most efficient cost. So, Jim, I just want to say, thank you for being my friend and such a great board member. The county is really going to be at a loss without, members like you who really know the work that's involved in what it means to be a legislator and someone that works across the aisle at any point. So, Jim, I appreciate you being, my co-chair or my chair for vice chair for so long, and just sorry to see you leave, but I'm happy for the residents of Shelby Township, and I'm going to turn the floor over. I'm sure there's a few people that would like to speak. And we'll start with Commissioner Romano. Oh, there you go, Joe.
Thanks, Chair. Father Solanas, Jim Carabelli. Jim, I got to tell you, you're the lasting day we got on here other than Mr. Leonetti, and now I'm starting to feel bad. But honestly, it's really been a pleasure. Not just yourself, but the entire board, but I'm going to sort you out, so to speak, because you've always been the guy I could talk to. You always did have the time. You did have the time to explain things to me. I love the way you used to say, I can't get my arms wrapped around it. I love the way you used to say, you give me eyes, you do it for your non-speaking Italians. That means you give me a sour stomach, and I'm probably one of two that only understood you. So I'm going to miss you. I really am. I wish you well in your new position. I know you're going to do well. And looking forward to working with you in that position. So thank you, Jim, for all your contributions to the board, and thank you for being, again, as Bob Smith said, a good friend. Thank you. That's all I had, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. Jim, you're Italian and I'm Irish. So when we get into it, we can really go at it pretty good. But what I really have liked about our relationship is that's an issue at the table. And when we walk away, we are just fine with each other. And I've always appreciated that. In the last couple of years, we had to work on some things together that I think really made us a little bit closer as friends and built a little bit of, built a good relationship with each other. I want to commend you for the fact that you don't just come to the table. You volunteer for almost every side group for every issue, whether it's finance or it's an ordinance related, and that's exceedingly rare. The extra time and energy that you put in is going to be missed. I'm really going to miss that interaction. I have the utmost respect for you, and I wish you all the best in your new endeavors.
Thank you. Commissioner Haw.
Thank you, Chair. I know we're talking about the proclamation, but I printed the copies of the resignation letter, Jim, and I was shocked that even it being a form letter, that yours was equally as short as Leon's. I expected to see much more in Leon's than yours. Being one of the newest members on the board, I will certainly miss you. You pulled me to the side, even though I've been an elected official for over 30 years, and tutored me on how county is different than state, which is different than city. And I greatly appreciate that. The one element that I remember the most is when Chairman Smith asked me to chair that budget committee. And we sat there across the table, and some of our colleagues got overly aggressive with what they wanted to do. No names mentioned, Leon. And you brought it right back to dead center, kept logic, rationale, always had the best interests of the residents of Macomb County at heart. I've served with many, many, many elected officials. They shouldn't, but they do the same to me. I silo them, good, bad, and ugly. And I got to tell you, my friend, you certainly fall into the good category. Shelby Township's getting a warrior, a true dedicated public servant, and I wish you all the best and God bless. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Majek?
Yeah, Jim, I'm going to miss you a lot. You know, Macomb County's loss is Shelby Township's gain. I really enjoyed the time I spent with you. Thank you for always looking out for the taxpayers. You've done them so well over the years in the county to really micromanage in a very good way to save taxpayer dollars, money in different creative ways. I also enjoy spending time with you at SEMCOG. I loved actually just getting to know you and your family, and hearing the stories about your kids and the hockey sports that they played, and how they're doing in college and things like that. So I've always enjoyed that friendship with you, and I've kind of looked up to you to the standpoint that, you know, my son's 14 now, and he's going through that age, and I've kind of always looked up to you for some I guess, fatherly advice. How could I be a better father to my son, just as much as you've been a great father to your kids? And one other thing I'd like to talk about, Jim, is his job at the landscaping company. And this is the honest God truth, is whenever I see his truck around in the garage, I've always thought to myself, it's great that we have an average working man in government. We need more people like that in government, average people to look out for the little guy in the middle class. So that's just something I've always thought about you, Jim, with your truck out there. Don't ask me why. It's just something I thought of with your truck. So with that, Jim, good luck with Shelby Township, and with your family as well. Be safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just so you know, he's smart. He leaves his Lamborghini at home. Commissioner Sauger.
He said something about Lamborghini.
Commissioner Sauger. Commissioner Sauger? Marv, if you're there, I'll get back to you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Paisan, it's been a real pleasure working with you, real pleasure getting to know you in serving the county. And as Commissioner Majek said, you know, one loss is another's gain. A lot of things that I could echo that everybody else has already said, but I do want to say that I personally, being on this board, have seen you, Jim, save the taxpayers' dollars. I've seen you work to look to try to find good resolutions and be efficient in government, and all with a common, as Commissioner Majek said, a common man's approach. And while I know you usually like to wear your jeans and your flannel shirts, you also look good in some Italian suits sometimes too, Jim. So best of luck to you. It was a pleasure working and serving with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown.
Jim, it's been a great serving with you together in Shelby Township and for entire county for that matter. You're doing public service for the right reasons, and you've brought your professionalism, your knowledge, your work in the private sector transferred well to us here in the county, especially relates to contracting policies and issues we try to address as a board on the budget. And you're the taxpayer's best friend, and Shelby Township's going to really gain a real professional and one that's got a good heart for the community as well as for taking his job seriously. I have a great deal of respect for you and look forward to sitting in your office many mornings as we try to work on solutions for our community. So thank you, Jim, for everything you've done, and I look forward to working with you on down the road. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was 20 years ago when I first met Jim Carabelli when he had a young family and was running for the first time for public office for Shelby Township trustee. And I would go by his house once a week so I could meet with him and talk to him about campaigning and, how to campaign and share information that I had with him. And my impression back then was this is an idealistic, relatively young man who's a straight shooter, and his campaign slogan was on time and under budget. That was a slogan for his campaign when it came to township projects. So I had sort of a window into the first steps into a public career that Jim Carabelli took. And as the last 2 decades have progressed, I have seen Jim tremendously adapt and learn about the operation of government at different levels, have successes in elections and some setbacks in elections, and really just evolve into a much more polished public figure. But what has never changed is Jim's idealism and the fact that he's still a straight shooter who still wants to do things on time and under budget. So the essence of Jim Carabelli, I hope it never changes. I don't think it ever will. So thank you, Jim. It's been such an honor being your friend. So good luck as future treasurer. I look forward to working with you in that capacity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim, it's been an honor and a pleasure working with you the last 4 years, and I'm looking forward to you leaving because now when the remonumentation project comes up, I can push to name that project after you. Thanks for all you did, Jim. Appreciate it. Good luck in Shelby. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Duge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim, over the years, you've grown and you've helped the committee grow. You've helped the board grow. You've made everything make sense. You've done a tremendous job. It's been a pleasure serving with you. I think it'll be Macomb County's loss that you're leaving, but Shelby's gain. It's really been a pleasure. You're one of the very few people that I could have called at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning that would have answered his phone. But that being said, we will miss you in this capacity. And I'm frankly shocked because now who's going to do the invocations when nobody else shows up? We'll miss that from you. Stay well, stay healthy. Good luck in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'm going to try Commissioner Sauger one more time. Marv, are you able to get on? I knew you were on the list. Marv, well, if you come back, even when we're talking about Leon, you can talk about Jim if you'd like. All right, we have a motion. Commissioner Carabelli. Geez, I guess I should give you the floor, right?
No, we're good right now. I'll be getting in touch soon.
All right, sounds good. All right, commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Should we take the rest together? No, just kidding. 19B, proclamation commending Leon Drolette for serving as Macomb County Commissioner. Can I get a motion?
I'd love to make that motion.
I think I have Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Majek in there. It was almost a dead heat. So we have a motion. I'm going to start off just the same way I did last time with a few comments, and then we'll get to the speakers. So Commissioner Drolette began his first term as commissioner in 1999. Phil, I'm not sure. Were you born then or not? I'm not really 100% sure. Then you left to go to the state rep. Then he returned to the board for 2007-2008 term. Then he left again to pursue other interests. Then he decided to come back for whatever reason, but we're very happy he did in 2017. He served as vice chair on the Health and Human Services. He's always taken a particular interest in the budgeting and providing, just like Commissioner Carabelli. They were strangely alike and strangely different. They were both very penny wise. They always wanted to find better ways to do things, and that's great, especially on this board in a legislative body. Always took a creative approach to problem solving, And quite honestly, I would have never, Leon, when you came on, I was sure that I wasn't going to like you, and it didn't take very long to realize that I was completely wrong, and you ended up being one of my favorite commissioners. Your sense of humor that goes along with the way that you would find things and figure things out was remarkable. And we're going to miss you, but again, like everybody else said, Macomb Township's benefiting from the county's loss. So I'm going to go to any speakers. I was about to tell you there are no speakers, just to be funny, Leon, but there are plenty. Commissioner Duche.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I figured I'd be the first speaker for Commissioner Drollet, since he's going to be the last speaker at the adjournment meeting. Nevertheless, Leon, it's been a lot of fun. You've become my hero as far as the IT professional that you are and that you will be. Frankly, I'm not going to miss you at all. I think you're going to do well in your next position, and you'll have a lot of fun in your next position. You've done a tremendous job for the people, but I'm glad you're leaving. Other than that, stay well and have fun. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, before I got on the board, I had heard of Leon Drollet, and, you know, I'd read some of his stuff in the papers, and I wasn't sure what I would think of him as well when I got on the board. But as Chair Smith said, I became quite pleasantly surprised at how likable Leon was and how fun he was to actually work with. And I am truly going to miss working with him. And I truly do believe the county is missing a very, very good advocate. The thing about Leon is this: he's just consistent, and that's a refreshing thing in politics. You know where Leon stands on a lot of issues, but Leon's not afraid to compromise on things. He'll just be consistent in where he stands, but he will work with you and he will compromise with you. And he has an incredible wit, as Bob said, funny, great guy to work with, and was truly truly a blessing to have an opportunity to work with him. So, you know, I'll tell you this, Leon, like I've told you before, you know, keep up the romantic fight. I know where you're coming from, and it is a desperate battle. You know, government gets bigger. There's no doubt about that. And it's always good to have folks like you that have that perspective that's a little different at times, but it's important because it adds to the balance. So best of luck to you, Leon, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Leon, I thought we were going to be the two biggest cheapskates on the entire board, and now you left me, and I don't know what I'm going to do now. I also was very apprehensive, as Chair Smith said and Commissioner Leonetti said, and I bite my tongue because, Leon, honestly, you've been an absolute, and I mean this from my heart, absolute pleasure to be with. Of course, you're a little long-winded, but we knew that when you coming in. But other than that, you've done a great job as a commissioner. I'm sure you're going to do a great job with your new position. I'm going to miss you. I really am going to miss you. I miss talking to you. I miss bouncing things off of you. You're a good guy, Leon. Just keep up the good work. Stay safe. God bless. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Contrary to the comments the chairman made, I knew I wasn't going to like Leon coming into the county commissioner position. I used to have to walk from the Hob to the Capitol and pass some silly-looking pink pig on the back of a trailer that was constantly parked out there. And before I knew who it was, I asked, who's the knucklehead that owns this thing? And they told me Leon. But I got to say, Leon, in working with you, it's never a dull moment. You always have wit. You always have the comments. You're conscientious. You're always looking out for that extra dollar to make sure that it's spent properly. I know you're going to be the treasurer in Macomb Township. I don't know if you know, my wife was a treasurer in Roseville for 18 years, and I do get pretty consistent status reports on conversations that you're involved in out there, and I expect to keep getting them. And as a PS note, you're definitely committed to fixing the fishbowl, and you and I know what that means. So God bless you. Do well. Just be yourself. I grew to quite an affection for our very lengthy conversations, especially when it became budget time. And we worked as a team. We left as friends, and we're going to remain friends. So God bless you. Keep up the good work. And remember, I'm going to know what you're doing in Macomb Township. So have a great time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Myjack.
Thank you, Chair. Leon, I'm going to miss you too. I think, though, we're not going to see the end of the pig on M59. Whenever I drive by that thing, I always think of you. So I'm sure that will continue. But, Leon, me and you are about the same age, and we started our run for public service, I guess, in the mid-'90s, around there. And I didn't get to know you until you were a county commissioner, and we served together during the Great Recession, and I grew to respect you very much with, in terms of what we went through, and you're an honest public servant for your constituent at heart. I appreciate that very much. And also you are, you don't like unethical behavior in government, and I really respect you for that. And I've grown to trust you a lot these last couple of years on the county board. I also am going to miss your humility. One of the things you said in the past that I always liked hearing is you told us that when you were in Lansing, all the people there, including the lobbyists and everybody, told you how great you were and you're above everyone else. And I saw you as a person, never felt that way, and always felt you were no different than the working man in your district, the person that made minimum wage as far as one of your neighbors. So, again, thank you, Leon, for your service. I'm going to miss you, and you're going to do a great job in Macomb Township and serving your constituents there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. Leon, we have nothing in common, and yet we built a very good relationship. And over the years, there were times where we talked on the phone for over an hour, looking at one issue or another, and there was never any struggle for conversation. We get along really well, and I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss you. I'm also going to miss debating with you, and I'm going to miss being able to cut you off when you were speaking too long. But I've really enjoyed the time that we have worked together. I'm really going to miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown.
Leon, I'm not going to say goodbye because you and I have been friends a very long time. I was sitting there trying to think about it. Maybe it's been 34 years, definitely in the middle 80s when we first got to know each other, and we've accelerated through our political careers together. And you're definitely the taxpayer's best friend. You're a great guy. You do your homework. You're someone that we should all be emulating a bit more. But we're not gonna. It's not goodbye. We're just gonna see you around. Obviously, you've been a great friend, a good advocate for everything that we've worked for good government, limited government. You and Jim Carabelli both wanting limited government, having government stay within its means, not expand, but only do what government needs to do at the minimum, and not cost the taxpayers more money than need be. And I'm going to look forward to working with you as we will with all of our local officials. But we're going to stay in touch, and wish you the best, and I'll see you around. Take care, buddy.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Leon, it's been a privilege. I'm honored to call you my friend. And I knew what I was getting with Leon when he came on the board the same time I did. But, man, he was a lot calmer than I expected him to be. But that's a tribute to all of his wisdom and years of knowledge and experience and being able to compromise and, going after what he really wanted and being able to work the problem and come to a solution with everybody on all sides of the aisle. So, Leon, I'm going to miss you here, but I'll be calling you. Good luck in Macomb Township. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And with that, Commissioner Drolet, I will give you the floor if you would like it. And I hope you would.
I will, I'll wait till under new business, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. All right. We had a motion and and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Great. Item 19C and or C and D. I'm not sure if anyone's here to speak to any of those, but can I get a motion for C and D? Or maybe
So move, Hall.
All right. Commissioner Hall.
Support Romano.
And support. Any speakers on these? Let me just double check here real quick. I don't have any speakers on this, so please vote. We have proclamation honoring Victoria Ann Doe. Oh, I should have left that alone. I don't.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Correspondence, item 20. Correspondence 20A. Commissioner Jim Carabelli, official resignation letter. Get a motion to receive and file? And we can take them all if anyone would like.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair, receive and file A through D, if that's okay, if that's supported.
Yep, that's fine.
Support Romano.
All right. We have A through D. If we vote no, they still are leaving, so you might as well vote yes. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 21, any commissioners with new business? Any commissioners with new business? I'm going to say Commissioner Drolet, you had mentioned that you want to speak, so I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know many of you may not believe this, but I will try to be brief. Thank you for all the kind words you had stated and honest, kind words. I appreciate very much. I've said this before and probably said it to you individually, but I have had the opportunity to serve on multiple different boards of commissioners in the 90s, in the early 2000s, the mid-2000s. I've served in the state legislature, 3 different legislative bodies. And I really, what stood out to me is how much I've enjoyed this group, all of you, to serve with more than any of the others, as much as I did enjoy those other groups and those other individuals. So I think this group has been unique in that there is so much difference between so many of us, and yet so much commitment to working relationships and to working together, and so many obstacles that this board has struggled with and found ways to overcome. And all of you have been an asset, and I've enjoyed every single week that we've served together. And I just want to thank you for making this a great couple of terms and a great experience. It's because of you folks. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners with new business? Any other commissioners with new business? All right. I don't have any other commissioners with new business. We're going to go to item 22, public participation. I believe we have a list.
20.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, what'd you say?
Did we vote?
Yeah, we voted on 20 already. And we don't vote on new business, so we're ready for public participation. So any members of the public wishing to speak, if you're on the phone, hit *6 and introduce yourself and tell us where you live, give your address. Otherwise, I know Patty has a list on the chat that there's an order from. Maybe, Patty, do you want to just give me the first person, and then we can just do it that way? It'd probably be a little more orderly.
Yes, Chair. The first person is Shaquala Johnson.
Okay. Would you please unmute yourself, say hi, and give us your address, please. And you have 5 minutes to speak.
Hey, you don't have to give your address, guys. You do not have to give your address. Put that out there. You do. That's not mandatory. Do not do that.
You have to give your community. How about this? Give me your city on where the community and where you're from. And,
there we go. Make it specific.
Okay.
This is Shaquilla Johnson, and I'm from Detroit, and I'm calling about the 5 people that were brutalized by the police chief, not by the police chief, but by the police in Shelby Township, and Robert Shalai backed them, and I'm calling to say that we need to have all them charges dropped. It was a peaceful protest, and we not only was it a peaceful protest, we have video that shows that the police started the riot. If anything, y'all need to hold y'all police accountable for brutalizing peaceful protesters just for standing up for black and brown lives. The world is not black and white, and things are not always going to be comfortable for you guys. And when it got a little bit uncomfortable because y'all seen more than one black person in Shelby Township at one time, y'all brutalized our people. And we will not be the example. Democracy is able to be practiced anywhere and everywhere that we choose as long as we do it peacefully. Nothing has been said about them officers being fired. Nothing has been said about them charges being dropped. These are people's real lives. And the police is walking around like they straight out of Grand Theft Auto. I called to say that we need to have them charges dropped and the police chief needs to be fired. And if not, we're just going to keep turning up the heat.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do want to speak to everybody for 1 second that we are a county board of commissioners that does not have any authority over any individual city, but you feel free to speak, please. I just want to let you know that. Patty, who's next?
Chair, the next person is Rebecca Paris.
Thank you. Rebecca, are you there? Rebecca, if you could unmute. Okay.
Chair,
Patty,
our next speaker is Claire. No last name, Claire.
Okay, Claire, could you give us your name and community in which you live?
Hi, my name is Claire. I live in Detroit.
Okay, Claire, you got 5.
I'm calling in today about the Jim Crow repression and police brutality by Shelby Township Police on October 24th when they attacked a peaceful march against racism. Police officers came with riot shields, batons, and even attack dogs to threaten peaceful protesters, bringing back a form of racism reminiscent of Birmingham 1963. The felony charges against the people arrested that day, the Shelby Five, are a shocking example of political repression that must be denounced by Macomb County political leadership. The brutality in these charges are an egregious violation of First Amendment rights. Robert Shalide, Michigan's own Bull Connor, has made statements calling protesters vicious subhumans and threatening to put them in body bags. This racist rhetoric is shocking to the conscience, even more so when backed up with action like we saw last month. But Shalide's racism was not enough for the Shelby Township Board of Trustees, who failed to fire him after his vile statements came to light earlier this summer. So I have several questions for the Board of Commissioners about the incident on October 24th. Who signed off on this operation? Several law enforcement agencies engaged in a coordinated tactical assault on protesters. I'm going to list some of them now. Shelby Township Police, Metro Macomb SWAT Team, Macomb County Sheriff, Oakland County Sheriff, Sterling Heights PD, Utica PD, Stony Creek Park PD, and Michigan State Police. What was the cost of this multi-agency assault to taxpayers, and how much force were police authorized to use? Protesters were threatened with attack dogs. Were police authorized to unleash them? Do you want to be the leaders of a county that uses attack dogs on peaceful protesters like Birmingham, Alabama in 1963? Another question, how far does Shalide have to go before he gets fired? He's a liability for the entire county. The protests against him will not end, and any violent police response to protesters exercising their First Amendment rights will only end up, and the backlash that will only end up in a massive financial loss for Shelby Township and the continued discrediting of their police department and township officials. Another question, what about the militias? While the peaceful march against racism was happening, there was a protest just around the corner of right-wing militia members armed with semi-automatic weapons. Why was this clear threat of violence by militias not handled with the same brutality aimed at the nonviolent march against racism? And a final question. Why were protesters charged with felonies for arrests made because they stepped off the sidewalk and into the street? Why did interim county prosecutor Gene Cloud decide to move forward with these charges, even after the congressman for much of Macomb County, Andy Levin, condemned the charges as politically motivated repression. So I'll conclude my comments by saying that Shalide must be fired, and all political leaders in Macomb County need to take a stand on the charges against the Shelby Five.
Thank you for your comments. Patty, who do we have next?
Chair, the next person in line is Brian Silverstein.
I'm sorry, Brian?
Brian Silverstein.
Okay. Thank you. Brian, are you there? Brian, if you can hear me, please unmute. Okay, Brian, we're going to move on to the next person.
Matt Hollerbach or Hollerbach? Matt Hollerbach.
Okay.
Yes, this is Matt. Can you hear me?
Hello, Matt. We have you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Matt Hollerbach. I'm from Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan.
Thank you.
Wanted to say thank you, Chair Smith and the commissioners, for the opportunity to talk with you today. Like some others speaking today, I was also a participant in the peaceful March for Black Lives that took place in Shelby Township on October 24th. We were calling for the firing of Robert Shalide, who made international news earlier this year when he flagrantly called for violence against civil rights protesters in a secret Twitter account where he routinely expressed sympathy for violent white supremacist views. So this October 24th protest, which had drums and singing and dancing, was met with brutal racist assault by Shelby police, who were supported by many other law enforcement agencies from across Macomb County and the state of Michigan that Claire mentioned. They were brandishing automatic weapons, tear gas, pepper canisters, K-9 units. They also had these weird, sad little dollar store riot shields that I'd never seen before. Later in the evening, as we waited for our friends to be released, we were assaulted again by these same goons. In neither instance was an order to disperse given. So I'm here today to ask you 4 specific things. You do have authority here. You have authority to release statements. So number 1, release a statement calling on Macomb County Interim Prosecuting Attorney Gene Cloud and incoming Prosecuting Attorney Peter Lucido to drop all felony, misdemeanor, and civil infraction charges against the Shelby Five and anybody else from that day. Number 2, release a statement calling on the Shelby Township Board of Trustees to fire Chief of Police Robert Shalide. Number 3, use your power of subpoena via the Records and Public Safety Committee to investigate Shelby PD's brutal, disproportionate, multi-jurisdictional assault on peaceful civil rights demonstrators. And then the 4th and final thing I want to ask you is to take some time to consider your responsibility in this moment and to think about what kind of place you want Macomb County to be. So right now, if you do an internet news search of Macomb County or Shelby Township, you're not going to find much favorable coverage out there for your home. In this historical and pivotal moment for the world, your community is becoming synonymous with racism, police brutality, and accommodation of white nationalism. A majority of you are Democrats, and it's time you take a stand alongside your colleague, Representative Andy Levin, and on the right side of history. Drop the charges, fire Shalide, and Black Lives Matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Chair Lily Hanson is next. Lily Hanson.
Lily? Okay, Lily, are you there? Lily, if you can hear me, I'm not sure exactly what device you're on, but please unmute. Okay, Patty.
Next is Sammy Lewis. Sammy Lewis.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you. Yes, nice, Sammy.
Hi, my name is Sammy Lewis. I am an organizer with Detroit Will Breathe, and I live in Detroit.
Okay.
I am calling in today to demand accountability from the Shelby Police Department and as well as from this board. I am calling to comment also on Chief Shalide as well as the Shelby Five. Chief Shalide has made incredibly racist remarks that only lift up and support police brutality, which is exactly what we're protesting against. Shelby Township has shown a lack of accountability and furthermore a lack of humanity by allowing him to remain chief. He needs to be fired immediately, and Shelby PD needs to be held accountable for the excessive force they used against us October 24th as they violated our constitutional right to protest. As I've previously stated, I'm also calling to demand these ridiculous and quite frankly unlawful felony charges, misdemeanor charges, and tickets be dropped. I think that it's been clear throughout the summer till now that both SHIFT and Detroit Will Breathe are organizations that have a history of nonviolent marches. I watched in horror October 24th as my friends were thrown viciously to the ground and small women and people were targeted. They did not deserve this and do not deserve these charges against them. Shalide has tweeted about the protesters acting like barbarians, but I think the Shelby PD acted as such that day. Have some accountability and drop the charges. Fire Shalide because these protests are not going to stop against him, and that makes Shalide a liability. So now my questions are, who signed off on this tactical assault? Someone authorized this violent attack on us, and I think it's just for us to know who. Why exactly were K-9 units, SWAT, riot police, and police from other counties there and stalking us? Why were these militias even deemed necessary? And lastly, where is the accountability in Shelby Township? It seems to me that Shelby is just known as being this racist town with a violent police force. So I'm asking that you, as this board, release a statement and take a stand on the right side of history. Fire Shalide, hold Shelby PD accountable, and drop the charges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Lily Hanson
Yes.
is on the line now.
Yep, I saw that. Thank you. Lily, are you with us?
Yep. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about the
Lily,
Black Lives.
Can you give us just your name and in your city that you live in, please?
Yeah, my name is Lily Hanson. I'm from Detroit.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Black Lives Matter protest on October 24th and the felony charges against the Shelby Five. Before I begin, I just want to say in response to a previous comment that was made about this board not having control over this, that let it be known that this board has oversight over the Macomb County prosecutor and sheriff via the Records and Public Safety Committee, which means that you all do actually have some power to drop the charges and fire Shalide. So anyway, on that day, we pulled into the parking lot near Planet Fitness, thinking we were going to have a nice, peaceful march, while making a point that the actions of Shalide cannot be tolerated. As we know, that's not what happened. So later, when the cops started attacking us, and when I saw friends gasping for air while cops laid across their backs, when I heard someone scream in pain that the cops were breaking her leg, when I saw necks kneeled upon and someone strangled, I was appalled, but having grown up near the area, I knew exactly what the police were doing. I knew they were perverting their power in order to silence and abuse, using their authority over the law to break the law, and subsequently cause harm, because that's what cops in Shelby Township do. They believe they have autonomy over citizens, especially Black citizens. The fact of the matter is that on October 24th was an act of racism and brutality and abuse of power from your police department. It's analogous to the Jim Crow South and representative of the axiomatic trend this township has towards violence and racism. And it needs to be acknowledged that this trend, this racism and violence, is being continuously politically obscured by things such as the felony charges against the Shelby Five, which result in a lack of accountability and a concession, frankly, of empowerment for the police to continue their vicious persecution and oppression of residents and peaceful protesters alike. The fact that they're being christened the Shelby Five should give you some indication that the charges are fallacious and the actions of the police are very wrong. Names like that don't just pop up unless some prodigious civil rights violation has occurred. This board's refusal to condemn the actions of the police or take any measures regarding the felony charges, first of all, is insanely shameful, but it also makes you all complicit. It makes you brutal and racist by association, especially considering that you have oversight over the Macomb County prosecutor and sheriff. The only way to give back some small, scarce piece of the justice that your cops took away is to drop the charges and fire Shalide. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Patty, who's next?
Chair, we have Allison next on the list. No last name. Allison.
Oh, Allison, are you with us?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. This is probably take the whole 5 minutes. So hello, my name is Allison. I'm a Macomb Township resident and a organizer with Shift Suburban Solidarity for Social Justice. I am calling in to speak about the violent attack by the Shelby PD and other Macomb and neighboring county police departments against protesters on October 24th. First and foremost, as elected officials, you commissioners must use your power to advocate for all felony and misdemeanor charges being brought against the Shelby Five and other protesters to be dropped immediately. Additionally, you must apply pressure on Shelby Township to fire the pro-police brutality chief, Robert Schlide. His continued presence as chief of police poses a threat and a liability to Shelby Township and Macomb County. 2 nights ago, residents called into the Shelby Township board meeting and gave public commentary for over 3 hours. We unanimously called for the charges to be dropped and for accountability from Shelby officials. The response from Chairperson Stathakis was avoidant, victim-blaming, and also racist when he used the rhetoric of quote-unquote law and order and also those people when referring to members of the public who protested in Shelby. Stathakis said that protesters were brutalized on October 24th only because they didn't move back onto the sidewalk. But we could clearly see that the police, K-9 units, threat of rubber bullets, pepper spray, tear gas, riot, and SWAT teams were deployed to intimidate and hurt us that day, including an additional violent ambush at the police department later that night. Who signed off on this operation? How much public funds that could be used for community uplift were spent on brutalizing us? Who signed off on having Metro Macomb SWAT attack us? Metro Macomb SWAT is an anti-terrorist police team. Did you accept the propaganda that Black Lives Matter activists are terrorists when the current liar-in-chief Donald Trump and his lackeys told you as much? Why was it that after months of similar nonviolent marches in Shelby, Warren, Harper Woods, St. Clair Shores, Detroit, etc., that a massive 8 to 9 department tactical assault was coordinated against us in Shelby? Why is it that only when a group with primarily Black leadership, Detroit Will Breathe, came to join us in Shelby Township, that the response was so extremely violent, excessive, and looked like violence by racist police departments in the Jim Crow South? We expect to find out exactly who signed off on this, who was complicit in this organized assault, and then let residents know exactly how their public funds are being wasted on these immoral and unconstitutional assaults. Stathakis also said that Schlide was kept in his position even though he violated his contract in 7 to 8 different ways because the board voted to let him stay, and that's how democracy works. Majority rules. Well, it's sad that I even have to say this, but it's wrong. This is wrong as well. We should note that slavery and segregation de jure would still be in place if we allowed the southern states and racist communities to have made that decision. This is why we have elected officials and government, to make sure that measures are put in place to stop these abuses and oppression from happening in the first place, especially. Unfortunately, I imagine that many of you might respond the same way Stathakis did 2 nights ago. And so finally, I'm here to say that you need to look inside of yourself. You need to realize that by doing nothing to correct and redeem this situation, you are also complicit in the historical suppression of civil advocates. If you feel like you don't care about this, you have to realize that not only is this a dereliction of your duty to protect citizens, but it is also most likely your white privilege and your belief in authoritarianism as a correct style of policing that is guiding your complicity in these actions. If you don't think that police brutality is a problem and always jump to ask, what did those people do to deserve this violence? Then you have to figure out at what point were you programmed to believe that police should have the final say in who gets to live and die.
You have 1 minute, by the way. You have
1 minute left?
Yes.
Okay, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Police are not judge, jury, or executioner, and neither are you. Yet it is officials like you who stand by and protect police when they try to act as such. This is something we should all recognize by now is a massive, unconscionable problem in this country that we should be working to upend and no longer allow. We have the power to do this. And I'm calling on you as elected officials and public representatives to start here now and rectify this situation in Shelby Township. Fire Shalide and drop the charges against all protesters. Thank you.
Wow, perfect timing. Thank you, Allison. Patty, who's up next?
Chair Christine Bedenis, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. Christine.
Thank
hello.
you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, my name is Christine. I live in Hamtramck.
All right. Your floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. History may not repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. Our current times have the quality of an echo of some of our history's darkest moments, and I'll start with Alexander Macomb Jr., who this county is named for. His father came into his wealth and thus passed it on to his son by presenting land contracts to indigenous people and then later amending the contracts after the fact to steal land. One of the reasons he made these land grabs was because he was a slave owner, and rather than realize the immorality of amassing wealth off the backs of stolen people, he saw it fit to only expand and continue that practice. It is only fit that the racism of the namesake of this county echoes through actions taken today. In the early 1900s, much of Macomb County was essentially a sundown area. For those who are unaware of what that is, it's a place where any person of color, but especially Black people, were violently run out of town when the sun went down. There are numerous accounts of Black people being picked up in Macomb County and then dropped off at the border of Detroit. That treatment of people of color has echoes in the actions taken by today's law enforcement, including the Macomb County Sheriff on October 24th. If we are to truly learn from history, then we must remember that it is not just the people whose names have become infamous that are responsible for the injustices we learn about. There were dozens of people behind them that made their actions possible. I wonder if the county commissioners of Jefferson County, Alabama, don't consider themselves responsible for the actions taken in their county by Bull Connor. I wonder what kind of difference would have been made if they had stood up and said, no, racist policing tactics are not welcome here. I wonder if that echo of history could be changed here today in Macomb County. The actions taken by Shelby Township's Chief of Police, Robert Shalide, were condoned by Macomb County when the sheriff and other municipalities coordinated to attack people who were standing up to racist threats. The phrase is one bad apple spoils the bunch. That means you get rid of the rotten fruit, not take it out, shine it up on your pant leg, and then put it back in. The rot of bad apple Shalide has spread throughout law enforcement in Macomb County, and he must go. The only difference between the images of what happened on October 24th and sundown towns is that it happened in broad daylight. Just as when Dr. King and John Lewis tried to cross the bridge in Selma, only to find the roadway blocked by police with batons, so too was Van Dyke blocked off mostly by law enforcement with bully shields and batons, not protesters. You have a chance now to change the tune of history, to stop rhyming and echoing the racists of the past, and set Macomb County on a new tune of justice and equity. Do the right thing. Denounce Robert Shalide. He must be fired or resign, and Macomb County must refuse to coordinate with his racist policing tactics. Shalide himself tweeted that if protesters were to show up in Shelby, they would be leaving in body bags. Seeing that the police showed up with riot shields that have been recalled because they are known to cause excessive bodily damage, I believe we can take that as premeditation on the part of law enforcement. There were also K-9 units, police dogs on scene from the beginning. That is certainly a lot of options for force for groups that have a clear history of peaceful protesting. How much force were police authorized to use on nonviolent protesters? Why was there so much military-grade equipment on the street against nonviolent people in sweatshirts and jeans? If it was a question of blocking traffic, photos and videos show that it is law enforcement vehicles that are clearly blocking way more traffic than any person or march could. In case you all forgot, we are in a pandemic, with medical recommendations being to spread out. If there was not enough space on the sidewalk to be safe, where else should have people gone, especially since traffic was clearly being controlled by law enforcement? If it was a question of reassuring public safety, then why was there no coordinated response to militia members openly brandishing weapons at members of the public less than a mile away?
Christine, you have
Why are people who are standing up for justice and equality being targeted with multiple felonies? There were multiple agencies called in to police this peaceful march, including the Shelby Police Department, Metro Macomb SWAT, Macomb County Sheriff, Oakland County Sheriff, Sterling Heights Police Department, Utica Police Department, Stony Creek Clark Police Department, and Michigan State Police. Who coordinated this? Who signed off on this? How much did all this police presence cost the taxpayers? Again, this is your chance to change the tune of history, lest you want to be remembered for targeting people for exercising their right to free speech, a right that this country was built upon. These charges must be dropped, and you must be making these statements public.
Thank you. Patty?
Here, Elizabeth Wood. Elizabeth Wood.
Hello.
Hello,
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Wood. I live in Redford Township. I am also here to talk about the police brutality on October 24th. And I echo many of the sentiments shared previously by members of the community. So I will highlight a few points, but I would like to speak from point of view from my own training. I am a high school history teacher. And frankly, I naively believed when I first started teaching that I would not have to teach about the tactics, brutality, pain, murder, fear, and suppression of rights during the 1940s, 50s, 60s, to my students in the same context that is happening today. And yet here we are. So I will reiterate the same questions that have been asked. Firstly, why is Robert Schlid not been fired in the first place? If you are feeling uncomfortable about now, I hope that this is truly the moment that you realize something needs to get done. 2, why on earth are there still felony charges against peaceful protesters? This is particularly a play out of a very old and racist book. I would also like to know who, and it's going to be more than one person because it takes far more than one person, who coordinated such a large-scale attempt at threat and violence. Violence of this variety and with this number of agencies does not erupt accidentally. It does not form because tensions got high. This was planned. This was coordinated by all of the agencies that have already been listed by speakers today. If you are unaware of this happening in your county, then you need to be taking a closer look. If you were aware of this happening in your county, you need to be taking a much firmer hand and making sure that civil liberties are not infringed in this way. I think it goes without saying that a peaceful protest group protest groups that have a long history of nonviolent action were treated in a much more brutal and terrible way than militias with semi-automatic weapons who are actively there to cause more fear. So I would like to ask that this commission take all steps in condemning these actions, in dropping the charges on the Shelby 5, and in getting rid of Robert Schlid. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lillian Ellis. Lillian Ellis.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Lillian Ellis. I live in Highland Park, and I am here to speak about the Shelby 5. We're coming to this board with hope and that you will take these things very seriously, and we're trusting you because I think many of us have been hurt, and this body has oversight over the Macomb County prosecutor and sheriff, people that have hurt us, via the Records and Public Safety Committee chaired by Leonetti. And so I think that you all do have the power to do something about this, to make a statement in support of us, to be on the right side of history. It's clear that Shalide is not interested in that. His comments about if we come there that we will leave in body bags should really give us all pause, because I understand the polarization of politics and how over the last months since George Floyd's death, people have gotten distance from the grief that I think many people in our communities are feeling, and it's become more about politics and less about the human toll of the policing system as is. And so we are here trusting you with the human toll that this has taken on us, on especially the 5 folks in Shelby that are facing felony charges. And these felony charges are not something small. I think saying it with that distance, like, oh, they're facing charges, it erases the real fear and cost. These folks were kidnapped and kept in jail over the weekend. And even if charges are dropped now, that is a harm that has already happened. And so, as Representative Levine is calling, I think that it's important that these charges are dropped immediately, and then we can move into investigating how this happened, how these many, many, many police stations all work together to coordinate this attack on, nonviolent protesters exercising First Amendment rights. It is true that the behavior of the police against us has been normalized, but I don't want that it has happened so often to erase the human toll and the suffering that it causes. Folks, protesters are out there with love, with grief, as humans trying to connect to our full humanity as a population. And exercising our ability to love each other deeply when it's hard. And I think situations like the murder of George Floyd, or the murder of Theo Gray, the murder of Breonna Taylor, these things are hard to sit with and grapple with, and I think that they call for us to come together and deal with them as in collective ways. And with COVID, we're trying to do that in as safe a way as possible, masked, outdoors, spread apart, and for police to see that collective grieving process and respond with deadly riot shields and dogs and kidnapping and scaring us and hurting us, I think is, I hope that it gives you pause. And I know that you all have the power to do what is right. And so what we're asking is for you to move towards firing Shalide, to make a statement in support of the protesters, especially dropping the felony charges, and then to further investigate into how this could have happened under your watch, and how can it never happen again? How do we put into place safeguards so that these dozen different police stations do not work together in a coordinated attack of terror on folks exercising their First Amendment rights? And how do we protect First Amendment rights in a way that does not allow for felony charges to be held over people's heads? And I want to emphasize the trauma of felony charges. Being kidnapped by people with guns, by police officers, and held in a cell is...
Your time is up. I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Next on the list is Bethany Ellis. Bethany Ellis.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm a lifelong resident of Washington Township. When I first started protesting this summer, I thought that all the cops were like the Shelby Township cops. I'd go to these other cities, no matter how small or how big the protests were, the cops would come and block off the roads, but not to come and beat us and arrest us, to block traffic, to keep us safe and to protect our constitutional right to protest. But when they first started coming, it's like, oh no, we gotta go. And it's like, no, they're here to block traffic. They're not here to get. It's like, oh, that's not what the cops by me are like. And that was embarrassing. I'm embarrassed. I mean, I'm glad I don't live in Shelby, I guess, but I'm pretty close. I always thought Macomb Township was a good place growing up because I didn't know any different. Then as I, became a teenager, got older, I realized how bad it actually was. But I didn't realize that we were at the level of police brutality until the 24th. I've been to most of the Shelby protests, and I was there immediately when the protest started. It's a large group. The cops immediately met us in riot gear. The riot cops came right up to me. I put my hands up to make sure they didn't think I was doing anything because cops terrify me. I don't want them to hurt me. I don't want them to arrest me. And they immediately pushed me with a riot shield. And right after that, they pushed one of my African-American comrades, the same cop, 10 times harder than they pushed me when we're the same size. The cops sent 2 of ours to the hospital that day. And I haven't heard anything about investigations, about them getting in trouble. But then some of ours got charged with assaulting officers. What about the cops that assaulted the peaceful protesters? It was traumatic to see police brutality in person, and I never imagined that it would be so close to home. So I'm wondering, as Macomb County, with you guys sent the Macomb sheriffs there, they were acting in cohorts with them or whatever on the attack plan. So where is the accountability? Why is someone like Chief Shalide with his racist views allowed to not only be a cop, but allowed to be the top cop and control his racist police minions? And I would like nothing more than Shalide to get fired and those charges to get dropped, not just against those 5, but against everyone arrested that day. And I would love to live in a place that I could be proud of again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Tanaka is next. Peter Tanaka.
Peter, are you there?
I'm here, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I just wanted to say first, I was very moved by the awards ceremony for veteran Philip Brandazzo earlier. Really remarkable story. I'm here tonight to comment on...
Can you give us your city you live in, Peter?
Yes, I'm a resident of Warren in Macomb County.
All right, yeah, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to comment on the state of race relations in Macomb County and to speak to the incidents that took place on October 24th in Shelby Township. Of course, the killing of George Floyd at the end of May brought a lot of the racial issues to the fore in America. And this summer, we had more demonstrations taking place than we have had at any one point in time in our nation's history. I think it's really remarkable, and pandemic aside, it's just amazing that we're living in such a historical time. As a resident of Macomb County, I was also very proud to see that on June 6th, we took a stand and had thousands of people marching in the streets on Hall Road in Sterling Heights, standing up for justice, for the Black Lives Matter movement, and for victims of police brutality. Now, in Shelby Township, we have had an issue with Police Chief Shalide and the comments that he's made on social media. He has referred to protesters as wild savages. He's called them subhumans that should be put in body bags. And he has threatened to hit them with tear gas, water cannons, and rubber bullets. I understand that he was very emotional when he said this, and that sometimes emotions get the better of people, that one lapse of judgment shouldn't necessarily ruin their lives. Chief Shalide was suspended. He took racial bias training and returned to his post. Understandably, though, some of the protest groups were upset that he didn't lose his job because of the vitriolic nature of these comments, and so they continued to meet in Shelby Township. Listen, Mr. Speaker, these groups, Shift, Detroit Will Breathe, have marched and been peaceful all summer. They've been brutalized by the police in Detroit, and brutalized so badly that they were able to secure a restraining order against the Detroit Police Department. When the Detroit Police Department complained to the judge that assigned this restraining order, they were told that the restraining order would stand because the police had no evidence that these groups were in fact violent. In the 100 days that they had been marching, that's a lot of time on the streets and not being violent. So, given this, it's very alarming to me that a group of 100 protesters with a restraining order against the Detroit police, protecting their right to protest, would be met by the Shelby Police, the Metro Macomb SWAT team, the Macomb County Sheriff, Oakland County Sheriff, Sterling Heights Police Department, Stony Creek Park Police, the State Police, with a K-9 unit on hand, police in riot gear, armed with shields, rubber bullets, and tear gas. Yes, they were marching in the streets, and this wasn't agreed to with the police prior to the march, but marching in the streets is what protesters do, and they march, in a few minutes they're gone. Plus, most importantly, this right is protected within the Constitution, and it should be honored, not met with brutality as it was on October 24th. If thousands of protesters can be accommodated on Hall Road on June 6th, I think 100 protesters can be accommodated in Shelby Township on October 24th. Of the 5 that were arrested and charged with felonies, 4 resisting arrest and assaulting officers, 2 of these were young women that are not even 5 feet tall. It's just hard to understand where this charge comes from with so many people in the streets. And 2 of these protesters that are charged with felonies, they were put in the hospital. I think this looks really bad for our Macomb County. And given the excessive police presence and the almost instantaneous use of violence on these protesters, and given Chief Shalide's comments earlier in the summer, people may make the connection that this was premeditated. As you may be familiar with, earlier this summer, Mayor Kenneth Pointer of Harper Woods made similar comments about protesters, stating that he could understand why someone would become a white supremacist. The protesters kept marching in Harper Woods, and this mayor, with a 23-year tenure, was forced to step down because of those comments. I think we're in a similar situation here in Macomb County and Shelby Township. This incident of police brutality is right now a dark spot for all of Macomb County. We must handle and address this. As veteran Phil Randazzo said earlier this evening in his comments, it's important that we keep peace and order in our country. And to do that, we must have officials that are respected by all groups of people. Chief Shalide has lost that respect of a lot of people, it appears. We need to ask Police Chief Shalide to step down, and we need to drop these felony charges against the protesters. This charade has to stop. And I think this would be a great gesture for Macomb County to show its commitment to racial justice. Otherwise,
you're at your 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners.
Thanks.
Jordan Weber is next. Jordan Weber.
And sorry, Peter, I actually said you had a minute left, but my mic was muted, so you missed that one. So anyway, Jordan, are you there? All right, Patty, can you give us the next one?
Anthony C. is next. Anthony C.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can. Anthony, give us your name and your community.
Anthony, I'm from Grosse Pointe, but more importantly, I'm a proud Michigander and I'm an American. I want to thank you, Chair and Board, for the opportunity for public comment tonight. I'm approaching you all as educated intellectuals who I believe are serving in your elected positions of authority in a fair and impartial manner. With that in mind, I'm calling in tonight just to ask you, when this is all said and done, to take some time to reflect and do root cause analysis on why so many people would call in tonight and talk about October 24th and the incident that happened in Shelby Township. And I believe that when you do that, you will find that there were some inappropriate, racist, authoritarian remarks made in social media by Police Chief Shalide. And I think that you'll then see a cascading effect of good-natured people who love and respect and want equality for Black and brown lives to come to places in Macomb County and march and ask for justice. And I further think that you'll find that during one of those occasions on October 24th, a clear message was sent by authoritarian police departments and law enforcement officers to dispel these peaceful gatherings that were seeking justice. And in doing that, they unlawfully arrested people and excessively used force and injured people and caused a lot of unnecessary attention and further trauma to a community that is potential for being very great in the state of Michigan. And so I ask you, with your elected positions of authority, to do what you can to investigate this matter further. I ask you to do an inquiry. I ask you to release a public statement, and I ask you to apply pressure where pressure is needed within the political realm to alleviate situations of causation, which is a racist and unacceptable police chief in Shelby Township. And I think you have a perfect opportunity to right wrongs, and I ask you kindly to take time to reflect, find what's right, and side on the right side of history with the rest of us who are in defense of Black and brown lives seeking justice in our communities and in Michigan and in America. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chair Alan Denard is next. Alan Denard.
Alan, are you there?
Hello?
Yep, we hear you.
All right, cool.
All right, Alan, give us your name and your community you live in, and give 5 minutes.
My name is Alan Denard, and I'm from Detroit. I live in Detroit.
All right.
What happened on October 24th with the Shelby Township Police and Black Lives Matter protesters was nothing short of the Shelby Police demonstrating how similar they are to the Slave Patrol. Because if those protesters were Trump supporters or any other right-wing group, they would not have been met with such brutality. They would have been welcomed with open arms by the Shelby Police. Police Chief Shalide has already shown his hatred towards the Black community, saying that Black Lives Matter protesters are subhuman and should be put in body bags. Not only that, the only repercussion he received from this was being sent to racial sensitivity training. This response only further shows which side Shelby Township is on, as well as Macomb County. He should be fired, period. Another thing to point out on October 24th was that the Shelby Police were not the only ones in attendance to harass and brutalize Black Lives Matter protesters. Utica Police, Stony Creek Park Police, and Sterling Heights Police were there to assist with the bigotry. Why is that? Why were there so many other jurisdictions outside of Shelby Township to suppress and silence a Black Lives Matter march? We like some answers for that. It is not a crime to protest. It is not a crime to demonstrate any of your First Amendment rights. To say that Black Lives Matter protesters can only march on the sidewalk is a form of silencing our voices. These felonies on the Shelby 5 are unjust, absurd, unethical, and unlawful. We demand these charges be dropped, and we demand that Shalide be fired from his position, because keeping him as police chief is only a liability on your part. We will continue to protest and apply pressure to the Shelby Police Department and any other law enforcement entity within your county that supports Shalide's racist agenda? Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
Jessica Prozinski is next, Chair. Jessica Prozinski.
Jessica, are you with us? Jessica? Patty, who's next?
Chair, Victoria Cole had some comments which were received in the chat box. She did not indicate if she wanted to speak, but I wanted to give her that chance. That's Victoria Cole.
Okay. Victoria, do you wish to speak? If so, please unmute.
Next is Jesse Allen.
Jesse?
Hi there. Can you hear me
Hello.
okay?
We can.
Great. Hi, my name is Jesse Allen, and I am from Livonia. I was in attendance at the protest in Shelby Township on October 24th, and it was not my first time there, as we had been marching in the exact same neighborhood weekly for over a month prior to that, asking the same demands to remove Chief Shalide from power. My 7-year-old child was one of several who marched with me past my grandmother's old house a few weeks before with absolute minimal police presence. The only difference between those days and this was that there was a greater non-white presence and more black organizers marching for Black lives that day. On that day, I was nearly nabbed by an officer who jumped out of a moving squad car to grab at me and other people on the sidewalk who had never stepped foot in the road, like this is some sort of Spike TV cop drama. Police hit us with riot shields and demanded that we leave, despite the fact that we were walking in a straight line on the sidewalk directly to our cars and literally could not expedite that journey. When we reached our vehicles at the end, we were met with the absolutely dystopian presence of at least 5 community PD forces and Michigan State Police, over 30 flashing squad cars trying to literally bully us out of town. There was a pro-Trump counter-rally down the street with rifles and attack dogs, but not a single car decided that semi-automatic weapons posed more of a threat than the elderly people and children holding signs and banging drums on the sidewalk. When you imply that this is not your jurisdiction to handle a situation that happened in a city, you forget that you used the power of the county to show a united force of white supremacy and bullying. We can't help only being in one place at one time. You can help how you organize multiple cities to form a violent response to a peaceful protest. So what I'd like to ask is this. Who decided to hit the Fascist Avengers Assemble button and waste taxpayer dollars on this operation? Who authorized the return of a police chief who was found to glorify violent racist rhetoric? In what way is walking in the road considered a felony charge by any stretch of that word? Why were people waiting for jail support attacked later that night? And at what point are you going to take responsibility for your place in history to stand up for the people that you claim to represent? Who exactly were you protecting and serving that day? And with that, I yield my time. All Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Patty?
Jessica Prozinski, I believe she had some technical difficulties and should be on the line now.
Jessica, are you with us?
Oh, she just chatted that she's having difficulty. We can come back to Jessica and move on to, are you there, Jessica? No. We received some comments from Nikki D, and I wasn't sure if Nikki wanted to speak, but we have Nikki D on the list.
Okay, Nikki, are you with us? If so, unmute.
And next we have Sima, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, and I'm not even going to try. Sima E.
Sima, are you there? All right. Who would be next?
We have John Myers III.
John, are you with us?
Good evening, Chairman, the board, everyone on this call. I want to say thank you for allowing everyone the opportunity to kind of voice their concern. I am a Sterling Heights resident, Macomb County resident for 24 years. I've been a community activist for a very long time. I've worked with a lot of the commissioners over the years, present and past, on this subject of equity, and let me rephrase that for a second, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we've been singing this song for the last 20 years since I've been old enough to be able to be an activist and talk about the issues that myself as a black male in Macomb County have dealt with and issues that need to be addressed. And the first thing I'm going to say is that diversity, equity, and inclusion needs to be something that is basically put in place across the whole entire county. You know, starting from the Board of Commissioners office, starting at the executive's office, to every municipality throughout this city, throughout this county. And we need to make sure that people are held accountable for this. In order for us to implement something with diversity, inclusion, and equity, we need buy-in. We need buy-in from the folks that are sitting at the table, that are representing us in this county. It's time for us to, you know, act on this. And I know that it's something that we can't turn a key and overnight, you know, institute diversity, equity, and inclusion into this county, but it's something that we have to work towards and figure out how we're going to make it work. All the issues that we have in Shelby Township is disheartening to me. It's very sad to me because I'm a stone's throw away from Shelby Township. I shop in Shelby Township. I drive to Shelby Township. Myself personally, I could have been a George Floyd. My sister could have been a Breonna Taylor. The issues that are coming to the forefront right now has always been an issue in Macomb County. Things have not been talked about publicly, but it's always been an issue. Years ago when I first moved to Sterling Heights in Macomb County in Sterling Heights, I was told certain things. Don't drive to Sterling Heights with your hood on. Make sure you take your hat off because it's known as Sterling Whites. As a young 16-year-old black male from the city of Detroit, I was feared to even drive to Sterling Heights to go to Lakeside Mall because it was a stigma that was there in this county about the police in Sterling Heights. They were against black males and blacks in general not to drive through there. Make sure that you got your seat on right, put your seatbelt on, and do everything you need to do. But I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a great citizen. But that stigma carried on for years and years and years and years. So it's important to make sure that we create this diversity, equity, inclusion throughout this county. Sterling Heights has been an industry leader in creating something that needed to be created a long time ago. What they did this year, starting July of 2020, Sterling Heights created something called the African American Coalition. And what this is made up of is people that live in Macomb County, not just Sterling Heights residents, but folks from all over the county, where they can come to the city of Sterling Heights, the city hall, and bring concerns. And what we've done over our last couple of meetings is we've created some focus groups. And one of the focus groups that we targeted, that we created, is called community policing. And this is something that is a very hot topic, and it needs to be discussed, and we need to figure out ways to work with every single municipality within Macomb County to create something like this. Why? Because people are being targeted based upon their race, their background, so on and so forth. And I think it's time that we come together collectively as one, as a county, as a people, and figure out how to engage with the police and figure out, you know, they need to see what training is available to them so that we're able to, I got some feedback. It's important to make sure that we create this type of community policing throughout all of the county so that everyone has the opportunity to be able to make a change. I'm getting some crazy feedback. I'm sorry.
I think some people are trying to get over you for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
Sorry about that, Chair Smith. We were able to remove the individual from the room.
Thank you. John, carry on. John, are you there?
Bob, it appears that individuals...
Stop that.
Yep.
They're overriding. They're muting people that represent.
I hear it. John, are you still there? Maybe we can finish up if you're still there. And if not, feel free to come back to any one of our meetings.
I'm still here, Bob. Bob.
Go ahead.
And we're working to address issues involving law enforcement and the impact and the impact on the African American community in Sterling Heights. Also, with trying to accomplish culture awareness between the community, the police, as well as the community, in a forum that we can provide some feedback for those guys. And also, you know, the community and the police must engage in outreach.
John, I can't explain why someone's doing this, John, but we keep.
It's quite okay. But in closing, I'll just say this: that we need to figure out a way to create some diversity and inclusion within Macomb County, working with the actual police departments, and trying to figure out a way to change the rhetoric that we have here that people believe in, how they see the police, and what happened to Shelby Township is absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
I appreciate it, Bob. No worries. I appreciate it. I'll keep it going. Seems like we got some distractions.
Yep. It sure does sound that way. So we keep trying to remove them as fast as we can, but they keep.
Mr. Chairman, isn't there a technical way to mute every phone except the person who's speaking? Isn't there a technical way to do that?
Nah, listen, if there is, Mike did not. Somehow they keep calling back in, but they keep getting.
Chair Jessica Krasinski is next.
Patty, I'd like to talk. This is Seema Echindia, if I can.
Yes, Seema, prior to you, and then I will call your name.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, Patty, who did you say was next? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not exactly sure what I should do about this because this is we're not going to be able to talk very much more in this public participation.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah, I hear you, but I can't let this go on.
Yeah, but why
Gotta end the meeting.
Public participation, and as long as y'all was talking, we didn't have no problem with hearing or no interruption. That seems suspicious.
Ma'am, that's not us. That's someone in another group calling in like this. So please don't act like you're accusing us of doing this. We let you talk. So I don't know what's going on, but they're jumping in on this meeting.
And no one is. Yeah.
So Patty, we can try one more, and if it gets interrupted, I'm going to actually call the meeting.
It's Jessica Prozinski's turn.
Okay, Jessica.
Chair Smith, this is Michael. We're not going to be able to keep control of this room. We would need to end this meeting and send out a new link to make available on our website if you wanted to continue the meeting. But we don't have.
Listen, everybody's pretty much been on the same topic. Now we have more meetings. You can come back to our meetings, but I can't continue this at this time. And I'm not taking public participation.
I'm sorry, Bob. Before you end the meeting, I need to say something as a member of, as a resident of Shelby Township, and somebody who got a ticket that day. I'm a 78-year-old resident of Shelby Township, and I was embarrassed that I even live in this community. The racist, disgusting police who scared the living daylights out of me when I was driving my car behind the march. They could have caused me and my friend, who is a 70-year-old woman, a heart attack. They treated us as if we were the scum of the earth. And I do not believe I can live in this community without crying out and telling you how god-awful it's been. Please realize that you guys are responsible. When you keep your mouth shut about the kind of nonsense that is going on here in Shelby Township, you are complicit. You are absolutely complicit. And you cannot continue to put your eyes over your hands over your eyes or your ears and pretend it's not happening. You have to look at this. This will ruin the whole tenure of the county. We are not all lily white here. We are a multicultural community, and we need to feel safe about being a multicultural community. And you are responsible. You allowed this to happen because you did not say to anybody in Shelby Township, get rid of a racist cop. That is not responsible behavior, and everybody in the community knows it. I, as a resident, am speaking up, and I am embarrassed about you and everybody on your trustee board who has kept their mouths shut and not done a goddamn thing about it. Good night.
Jessica Prozinski is next, Chair. Jessica Prozinski. Jessica was having some technical difficulties. We'll come back to her and continue on with Johnny K.
Can you hear me now? I'm so sorry.
Oh, is she talking? Go ahead. You can go ahead and talk. I'll wait.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Okay. Embarrassing. I should know how to use like Google Meet by now. First I wanted to say that we've heard from a lot of really powerful speakers, and I really appreciate like everything everyone has had to say. And I would like to say to the Board of Commissioners that if you felt your conscience like pricking you during people speaking, like please listen. These are some really intelligent, really committed, people trying to do the right thing. And I'm talking to you tonight because I always optimistically hope for that we have some commonality and shared values as people. On the issue of democracy, yes, it's true that majority rules, but there's also an important element of democracy, which is that we have to protect the rights of the minority. Okay, so I just really want you all to keep that in mind. I don't want to repeat too much what the other people have said, but I do want to say that, okay, if somebody is marching in the street without the proportionality of response, does it warrant charges? And I would also like to say, which is the more serious crime? Marching in the street without a permit or throwing peaceful protesters to the ground? I believe that the response of the shelter was born in a protest were calling for the firing of Chief Shalide and that to abuse their power. And Shalide wasn't fired for making his, racist and violent, about bad thing, and that wasn't. You have to be fired now for actually committing violence that he said he was going to commit in action against the protesters on October 24th. So thanks for your time, and fire Shalide and drop the charge. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie?
That would be Johnny K.
Johnny.
Next on the list.
Can you guys hear me okay? Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just want to say that these protesters are protected under their First Amendment right in order to assemble, and they are protected under the First Amendment right for freedom of speech, and those rights were being infringed upon by the police, and they're also protected by their ACLU rights as well. And so it's just really sad that people are being arrested for this. It shouldn't have happened in the first place, and Chief Shalide needs to go. On his Twitter account, he made some very nasty posts about how he wanted protesters to be in body bags. That's absolutely no way for the chief of police to act. And a couple nights ago, we were told that there was already a meeting about Chief Shalide and whether or not he was going to be fired, and it was like a 15-hour meeting. But the thing is, the governor can still get rid of Chief Shalide. He can be recalled. You guys could have another meeting about it. It's not like he has to stay on the force as the police chief. And not only in Shelby Township is he known as being a racist police chief, he's known like all over the state, nationally, as being a racist and brutalizing police chief. So he's just an embarrassment and a stain to the county, and somebody definitely needs to get rid of him. Whether it's the people or the governor or the council, one way or another, they need to get rid of him. Also, I was going to say that I wasn't there originally, but I heard about what happened. I came down to the jail after people were getting arrested. We were standing there, and we were talking about, we were standing outside of the jail, and we were protesting that people had gotten arrested earlier that night. And while we were protesting, I was with a couple different people, and one of the people that was there, he ended up getting tackled by the police, and he was just standing on the police steps in front of the police station, and he was just waving his flag. And that's literally all he was doing. He was tackled and arrested for that. And another girl was ripped out of the crowd, and she was also arrested. And she was not doing anything wrong. She was just there, hanging out and participating. But it seems like they were targeted because they were standing in front of the door earlier that night. And that's just another example of Shelby Township Police just brutalizing people. Like, they're standing there. They're expressing their rights as individuals. They have the right to be there. They have the right to speak up. They have the right to assemble. And they're just as being stopped, and it's ridiculous. Like, that should never happen. And a couple nights ago, some of the council members were like, well, we put full faith in our police force. And it's like, well, why would you put full faith in your police force? There's so many dirty, crooked cops out there. Like 40% of police officers have a history of domestic violence. There's been plenty of officers that have planted drugs on people or evidence on people in order to get them arrested for more convictions. And qualified immunity needs to end as well, so that these police officers can actually be arrested and charged for these crimes. I believe that the police officers that arrested the people that were marching out that day should have charges pressed against them for police brutality and excessive force. 2 people that were arrested on that day ended up going into the hospital. One of them had a concussion. That's extreme behavior. There's no need for 8 different police departments to come out to a peaceful protest because people are on the street. Like, that's ridiculous.
John, you have 1 minute.
People protest. Yeah, people protest on the street all the time. Okay, thank you. People protest on the street all the time. That's just what protesters do. They walk on the street, and if it's like blocking off traffic for a short period of time, well, so what? Like, they still have the right to be there. It's just absolutely ridiculous to me. But saying that the council cannot do anything about this, you guys have the power to make phone calls. You have the connections. You guys can definitely do something about this. Whether it was moved up to the state, you guys can contact the state about dropping these charges. You have influence. You can write letters. You can make phone calls. There's a lot you can do. So I don't want to hear anybody say today that they have no power to do anything about these charges. The charges need to be dropped. Nobody should have felony charges. These felony charges could haunt these protesters for the rest of their life. So,
John,
yeah.
your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, next is Joseph Hughes. Joseph Hughes.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Hello, I'm Joseph. I'm from Wyandotte, and first I would like to echo the eloquent and powerful speakers before me, but I would like to emphasize a point that several speakers have made, that the first comment that was made by the board here was that apparently they are powerless to affect anything here, and this is the same dispersion of blame that we saw at the Shelby meeting as well. Shelby told us to come here, and you tell us to go back to Shelby. It's like a petulant, selfish child trying to disperse blame. Nobody wants to apparently do any work to defend the constitutional rights of American citizens. It is ridiculous that we apparently have weak and impotent democratically elected officials who do not want to do anything. It is just ridiculous and horrific. You have the power, and you must utilize that power. You have a duty to utilize that power in order to affect this kind of change. What is the purpose of being in a political office if not to affect this change, if not to defend the people in your communities? There has been a county-wide conspiracy to suppress people, and you are telling us that there is nothing that you can do, and it's ridiculous and horrendous. As many people said before, drop the charges, fire Shalide. This beating, brutality, and traumatizing cannot go unanswered, and you have the power to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Chair, I have the last name on the list, is Christine Zabo. She made some comments, and I wasn't sure if she wanted to speak as well. Christine Zabo.
All right. I don't hear Christine. If there's anybody else that's not on that list that's on public participation and wishes to speak, please unmute yourself and give me your name.
I wish to speak up in here real quick then.
Okay,
My name is James.
James?
Yes. I am from Detroit.
Okay, James, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, I'd like to speak on behalf of the Shelby 5 too. And as I'm sitting here watching your camera and I can see the uncomfortability in your behavior, just imagine what the protesters had to go through that day. That is not even a fraction of what they had to go through that day. I wasn't there because I had some personal business I had to take care of, but sitting there watching the live feeds, watching people I care about be brutalized by your guys' police force, and for you to sit up here and say you have no influence about what you can do about that, that I'm going to keep it trying professional because I got something said to me in the chat about that. That I'm going to keep it trying professional because I got something said to me in the chat. But that's bullcrap. That's saying you can't do anything about it. If that was your family members out there being brutalized by the police, you'd be on top of it. Every person in your board of commissions would be on top of that, getting them charges dropped. You would be out there in the streets. Just imagine if that was your family out there. That's all I got to say. Drop the charges. Be on the right side about this.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak?
Chair Katie McCoy would like to speak.
Katie, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize, there might be some sound, but really quickly, all I would like to say is that I think all of the charges need to be dropped against the Shelby 5. They were just using their power to protest peacefully. I saw pictures and videos of multiple people being brutalized by the police in absolutely disgusting ways, and there is just absolutely no reasoning for the things that we're seeing on October 24th in Shelby Township. And all I can say is that the charges that were brought against them are absolutely horrendous and just make no sense. So this board has power and should use that power accordingly. We will always be working to protect the voices and lives of Black and brown people, and that should be seen everywhere across the nation, specifically in Shelby Township, where there is just such a disgraceful behavior shown by the police force and other members of the city politics. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
Chair, I see no other names on the list.
All right.
I'd like to speak, please.
Go ahead. Can be name and your city.
My name is Drew. I've been a resident of Macomb County for 20 years.
Right, Drew.
I've gone to school and worked in Shelby Township. And I'm calling to discuss the actions of the Shelby Township Police and the Board of Trustees. The board's decision to allow Shalai to keep his job even after breaking his employment contract emboldened the Shelby Township Police to engage in brutality towards peaceful protesters on October 24th. I was at the protest march and police station and witnessed people ambushed and brutalized over and over by their officers. During the march on 23 Mile, the section road we marched in was already coned off for construction. There were parts of the sidewalk that were roped off due to the construction as well, so we had to leave the sidewalk. The emboldening of Shalai and the police has in part led to the emboldening of groups such as the Proud Boys to increasingly demonstrate in Shelby Township as they feel they are welcome there. Not once, even after assaulting protesters from our previous events, were counter-protesters arrested. Groups like these armed militants with attack dogs were one of the reasons the march on October 24th was moved away from the Shelby Township Hall grounds and to the neighborhoods to march through. While groups like the Proud Boys are outliers in Shelby Township, they do pose a threat to people who only wish to stand up for justice. I've heard from people of color say they are growing more and more nervous of police
and people in general that live in the outlying areas around Metro Detroit, such as Shelby Township. The Shelby Township Board of Trustees do not do the right thing by keeping Shalai. I was at their Zoom meeting on Tuesday. Not once in the 4 hours I was there did anyone besides Supervisor Stefakis support Shalai. Dozens of callers from all over the state and country called in because of the bad press about Shelby Township. It spread. Does the county want to see taxpayer dollars wasted for Shelby Township's damage control when residents move away because of this? Currently, it seems that the prosecutor at best will give the Shelby 5 a plea bargain deal to reduce the ridiculous felony charges. So do the right thing. Convince the prosecutor to drop the charges on the Shelby 5 and charge Robert Shalai for his blatant misuse of power.
I'm mute.
Sorry. Any other members of the public wishing to speak?
Chair Ellen DeGenerate would like to speak. Ellen.
Hello. Oh, wait, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Give me
So
your
a week from today,
location.
when you sit down with your family and before you take a bite of whatever.
Excuse me, sir, can you give me your name and your
My name is
city
Ellen.
that you
I
live
am
in?
calling as an outsider who is aware of the situation. I live in Pennsylvania. This story has been reached nationwide, and I'm aware of what's going on. 1 week from today, before you sit down with your folks and have a bite of whatever meal you're having, I hope that you take a moment to be grateful that the folks who have taken the time to voice their concerns on this call have communicated and articulated the situation and giving you an opportunity to act upon it. I hope that you are grateful for this opportunity, that you can be acting upon their wishes as the public. I also hope that you are grateful that as part of those wishes, they are calling for the termination of the police chief and not the resignation of yourself. So I hope that from a week from today, you have some time to take on that, and as the position that you're in, you can do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty, do you have any more?
Chair, we have no more speakers.
Any members of the public on the phone wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Jeffrey. I'd love to speak if possible.
Give us your name and address and our city you live in, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jeffrey Nolish. Sorry to be joining the call late. I think you probably heard a lot from my friends and family, though. I live in Detroit, Michigan. I also work a job in Macomb County, actually. I'm on here to say what so many have probably said. I came through Shelby Township weeks ago on October 24th with a bunch of friends to support a group called Shift and to support a group called Detroit Will Breathe, because people in your communities are fearful and they're scared and they don't want to take it anymore. And I totally understand it. And they want people to know, hey, this is unacceptable. We want change and we want it now. And so, we saw people from all across the region come out for that message, to be accepted, to be heard, to be valued. And immediately marching out of that parking lot that day, we were met with something like 8 to 10 different police departments, all coordinating, all in advance, all crossing off the street before we even had a chance to. And they immediately were rough with friends, pulling people, grabbing people, throwing people, completely unacceptable behavior. It's one thing to perform civil disobedience and to be arrested. It's another thing to be brutalized. And it's really, really disheartening. I saw people that had a knee on their neck, that I saw police officers that refused to wear their face masks during this pandemic. I saw police remove a woman from a police car in front of 150 people, completely inappropriate. And none of it seemed to be strange or awkward for people outside of ourselves. And that's really, really a sad state of affairs. 2 of my friends were hospitalized that day. And that's unacceptable to me when you have people fighting for civil rights in 2020 to be brutalized that much. You know, I didn't see any officers intervene at all, even though local police departments do have a duty to intervene, especially when there's excessive force. And what I saw was disgusting. It should not have happened. It should not happen again. And one way to make that more of a reality is to fire Chief Shalid, or his name starts with an S. So I'm here to voice that same vote of confidence in taking this person's job away. You know, they did not act with integrity that day. The marchers did, and I was proud to be with them. You know, I want desperately for the charges to be dropped against anyone charged with a felony or a citation or a misdemeanor. And I would say that, and I'm finishing up here, but I would say that, you know, even if you feel like, it's not our jurisdiction, it's not our place, you have every bit of influence to as a person in power and people in power, as public servants, you know, to display what anti-racism should look like in Macomb County each and every day, in every word and every deed. You have an opportunity to make the community more valuing of Black and brown and people that are marginalized. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I really feel like I've seen some questionable judgment out of Macomb County this year. And I think you have an opportunity to rewrite that script. So thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak?
Yeah, I would like to speak.
Okay, can you give us your name and city?
Yep, you betcha. My name is Tamara Matthews. I reside in Clarkston, Michigan, in Oakland County. However, my husband grew up in Shelby Township, and my father-in-law still lives in Shelby Township. I decided to come and march with this group. I've joined them many times because I believe that it needs to be heard by everyone that Black lives do matter. Peacefully, right? And not only peacefully, but safely, wearing masks, sometimes even joyfully, right? In Harper Woods, in Detroit, in Warren. So I went to Shelby Township with my 28-year-old daughter to march peacefully again. And I'm a 58-year-old woman, and I've never been so terrified and scared and brutalized in my entire life. It was a nightmare. And just the force, the excessive force, it's an embarrassment to your county, who is known as a racist county, and boy, did they really come through to prove that everyone correct. So, you know, I appreciate you guys hearing everyone. I want you to know, and all of the elected officials know, that I have a lot of family in that county, and I plan to share my video of everyone being brutalized that day with everyone I know and not stop standing up for what's right. I hope that you all will do the same. You do have the power. A lot of people need to be held accountable. And most importantly, that chief of police, that he not have that job. There should not be people making comments like that are in positions of power, that are elected officials, that are our public servants. And then lastly, with these felony charges for these wonderful, brave, kind, loving young people that will ruin their lives. They need to drop the charges, just as everyone is doing across our nation against protesters, because it is our right to peacefully say that we believe that Black lives matter and that we're going to stand up and be anti-racist. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Any other members of the public wishing to speak? I've gone over on this. Our rules actually don't call for allowing like the same type of thing being on and on, but I'm glad everybody got to speak. I'm going to close public participation. Need a motion to adjourn. I have Commissioner
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Drollet.
Hello?
Commissioner.
Support Commissioner Drollet's motion.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Dujay.
Thank you.
Hello?
Please vote.
Public comment. Job, Leon.
Take care, Andre. I am going to miss you.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.